Hey guys, this is Jim Fix, aka Fillmore. For those of you who love QF, a podcast about Howard Stern, and would like to donate some money, there's two ways now you can do it. You can join our Patreon page, which is listed in the graphic you're seeing now. But also, if you'd rather not do a subscription-based thing, even if it's $1 a month or what have you, you can use our PayPal account, which would be jimfix76@gmail.com. And you can donate whatever you like, however you like, one of those two ways, and we'd more than appreciate it if you'd like to do so. Thank you very much.
Artie, maybe it's to take makeup off.
You want to know something? I'm going to tell you something great about Beth.
Yeah.
She never moves her bowels.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Maybe once a month.
I've never seen. I've been.
Honest to God.
I've been away with Dana,
like, to the point that
I'm
afraid for her health.
We've
getting excellent reports on you.
Do you ever shut up, or does Mr. X just have to punch you right in the face?
You're sitting there now. You're going to bring
Just
me. So
shut up.
As the producer of the, Robin, when you get an opinion on your own, I'll
Wait
talk
a minute.
to you.
Are you?
I've put out hit albums. I had the fastest selling album in history. What, are you going to be upset with Jason because he whacks off to your wife? I mean, that turns me on. And I got up, I pished. I don't want to be in a wig and a purse. I do that in my personal life. Yes, I'm like a woman who's been raped.
How much is Howard paying you a week? I'm paying you more, okay? Fucking give me a fucking break.
Now look, I don't want to get into a long explanation. That's not what I came here for. My audience isn't here to laugh. I mean, Gary's got wife and kids. And if I leave, who the fuck is going to hire him? Joe, hi, you're on the air. Hey, man.
Howard.
Yeah. Man, nothing.
Listen, I think it's time you come out of the closet with Ralph.
Oh, please.
Because I know deep down, and I mean that literally.
All right, so I'm a homosexual.
You're a sword swallower.
Right. I'm a homosexual. You're right.
Thanks, Howard.
Right. What can I tell you? I'm caught. Good. In fact, that's good. That would be easy. I'd love to be gay. It'd be so goddamn simple. Then when people ask me about why I'm separated from my wife, I just go, you know what? I'm gay.
I told you something.
I will not say no. I told you it's a personal defect of mine.
You don't have to say no. All you have to say is, yeah, that'd be great. I could use the help with Casey. That's fine.
No, I don't want to be told how to say it. I told you my problem. I don't want to be asked. You don't know that?
Bad position.
No, you put me in a bad position. You asked me. Then I'm not a good guy. I want to be a good guy. Listen to me again. I'm going to say for the 15th billionth time since I've known you. Don't ask me if you can leave early. You know what you have to do, and you know when you have to leave. Don't ask me.
So that means when I have to work
When
late,
I say yes, you can leave, it means no.
Can I leave?
I have no idea what you make.
Really?
I have no idea.
I got a guy now who's finding out the real names of the occupations of what the people do who bully me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm kind of a fighter, so...
Welcome, folks, to another episode of QF, a podcast about Howard Stern. I'm your host, Fillmore, a.k.a. Jim Fix, a.k.a. many, many, many other names for now. But in the meantime, welcome back. And we're also going to welcome back to the podcast, obviously, Sam, my expert co-host with the most.
Hi, you serial killer with all these names.
And of course,
what are you, like the Zodiac?
I guess. And then without further ado, let's reintroduce Bob Dee, Chicago, aka Chicago Bob, back to the podcast. Welcome,
Bobby
Bob.
Chicago.
Yeah, welcome,
hey guys.
back.
How's it going?
It's good. Good now. Better now. We got you back. It's been since my notes say January 9th or so. Might have been the last time we recorded anything. So it's been a long time. And can you comment on the fact that you said at one point you had to stop listening to the breakdowns because you were getting disturbed?
Yeah, well, I had to not only I listened to the QF stuff, but when I started, I kind of got more back into Stern just in general. Like, when you're working, you put stuff on in the background, and like I was revisiting a lot of stuff. And there was one episode in particular where he was talking about quarts of gorilla cum, bit where some gorilla was coming.
Actually, we're not even joking. Quarts of gorilla cum.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a concept like that I've entertained before. Or there's another thing in there too, where they were like trashing some girls who are on one of those like fat shows where I don't know, they're younger and they're obese girls, and like him and Beth were singing the song, and it was just it was too. I tapped. I was like,
we've got that clip right here. Let me just play it. It's real quick.
Love our number one show is Tammy and Amy.
Yeah, I love them.
Hi, I'm Tammy.
And I'm Amy.
And we're the 1,000-Pound Sisters.
And proud of it, I guess.
We love it.
Okay, so that might have been it. That's the only clip I got of that because and you were just kind of taken aback.
God.
Like I guess sort of the theme that I wanted to do today was just weighing in, because everything that I've done is previous, older material, just weighing in on the state of this show, and especially we're in this thing where we're directly in Howard's mind now. Like the camera's on him. There's no diffusing the way that there was in the studio. Like we are in his mind, and I just seeing the way that he's like associating concepts and these just extremely negative themes, and just there's something about the thought of him and Beth in their mansion just like trashing these girls that I just needed a break. And again, the animal the squirrels coming on each other, and like I just didn't want to hear it. So
Sam?
It's interesting because when you listen to the breakdowns, you've often messaged me privately or publicly. You have said on our Facebook page, which if you haven't join quite frankly on our Facebook page, you've said it disturbs me, these clips. It's like, this is the false face falling down. Nobody's there to save him in studio because he personally wanted it this way. So we're watching this in real time. What happens when NPD fully forms,
Yeah.
But you haven't actually been able to listen to the show. And I was like, maybe he's just kind of fearful of it, or, busy or whatever.
Sure.
And like, you have your own life and nobody expects you to listen to it. But I thought to myself, once he ever really starts listening to the show again, it's going to freak him out, because it's even worse than the clips that we pull, because in its entirety, it's just like a mental vomit of awfulness. Just totally.
Yeah. It's not even nitpicking. It's like, this is just genuinely bad. This is just genuine. Like, these interviews are done extremely poorly. Like, it's disturbed. The amount of projection and like, just seeing how all the little tools and mechanisms he used to use to not expose his true thoughts. Like, I feel like if I were to liken it to one thing, it's almost like before the show was like when you're at a bar and you're talking to a guy and he gets weird or whatever. Maybe he's got some other people there that and you're able to, all right, I'll go play pool or I'll go outside for a minute. Like, I feel like now with the way that they've set up the COVID show, it's almost like you're just sitting in a room with him and you're talking directly to him. Like, we are really getting his thoughts now. There's nowhere else to go. Like, it's just this energy where it's almost like you're just trapped and listening to him. Like,
so Bob, do you think is it a nature of is it a causal relationship? The causation is because he's at home, he feels more comfortable exposing his true whatever self that is, or because and usually he's in studio, he puts on the false self, but still things trickle out because he feels comfortable, quote unquote. But he's never more comfortable than when he's at home, presumably. Although the way it sounds like he's not even comfortable there because he's not getting his ass kissed on a regular basis.
I think with a lot of people, what COVID's done is it's made us all go into our heads a little bit more, and I think it's kind of brought out a more introverted nature in a lot of people. But I think it's him aging. Now we're seeing lots of themes about death and my will, and I think that that sort of thought of mortality really haunts people with NPD. I think it's that. I think that it's just the format of the show now because he's not in a studio that it's really kind of turning into a one-man show. And, it's just the format is different. I think probably dynamics at the house with him and Beth are getting more stressed. I think whatever had happened with that contract, I think there's probably a lot of bad news involved with it. We don't know the inner workings of that deal, but the impression that I'm getting is they're going to start using his show to sort of springboard other shows and promote other stuff on the page. I think it's a lot of that stuff coming together, and I think I've never seen anything like it. I really don't know. I mean, it's so unprecedented that we have this program.
Yep. Sam?
I think what Fillmore is saying too, like, I agree with him that the fact that we got him in this environment and he doesn't have those people to, in studio to fall back on, or that sort of, even though it was a forced face of like, defer to Richard, defer to Sal, defer to this person, at least those people were there to kind of check him or keep the program in a certain way. Now that we're getting unabashed him, so a part of me thinks because of his narcissism, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, he doesn't even realize how this sounds. He doesn't even realize how this comes off. I don't think he has an idea that this comes off so bad, and it's progressively getting more demented, bad, sad, just maniacal, megalomaniac. I mean, it sounds crazier and crazier. And I think he has no introspection about it. When you do something stupid and you're like, fuck, what the hell did I just say? Why did I fucking do that? I think he has zero of that.
Yeah, I think, I agree with that point in that he's now in an environment where his head and ego can just grow unchecked because he is completely manicuring his reality in a way of who he's seeing, who he's interacting with. Whereas when you have to actually go out into the world, there's tons of variables about who you're going to run into. But when he has nothing humbling him at all, and he's able to get the news he wants to get, he's able to talk to who he wants to talk to. You're gonna start to see it spiral out of control more, I think, and that's what I'm seeing.
Like one clip I was looking for and I found it, but it's just a little too long. Like the Lucky Charms thing. A lot of people.
Let's do the clip.
It's 2 minutes. I don't know that it's worth it because it's really, we can just explain. People have heard it. If they've listened to the breakdowns, they know that he found stashes of Lucky Charms of Beth that she's been hiding away that he claims he didn't know about. And I'm sure he didn't know about it because he doesn't seem to go anywhere in the house and do anything. But there she is, subsisting on sugar and we think crushed Adderall and wine. And the fact that she has to hide the stuff from him. Like what kind of nutcase do you have to be married to where you have to hide your, like, what do we say, like Ginny Sack in The Sopranos?
Yeah, that was the greatest reference. It's true.
Totally.
I think one thing I've seen with people that have NPD is their standard of beauty is just thinness. I've noticed a lot, like the thinner you are, the more attractive you are. Even when it doesn't look good on a person, they'll continue, like, they're very cognizant of weight, even over just like a general appearance of health. So I'm sure he's watching her diet. I mean, that's the only reason why she would do something like that, is if he was going to give her hell about it and beat her up over. There's no other reason why she would do that.
And Sam, have you seen, I think Bob, you might have too, Gary Puppet and a few other people have posted pictures of Beth, just kind of the shoulders extended, and it really, like where the collarbone is fully extended, her arms out, something like that. It looks like a TV dinner tray. That's
Right. So picture like when you take a selfie, guys, and you put both of your arms out and you take a picture of yourself.
Right.
And so you're maybe half your face or most of your face is, and then your chest and your collarbone area and shoulders.
Right.
It is completely it looks like you just stumbled upon a dead body that has been sitting in an apartment for 2 weeks. Like, that's what her body looks like. It's disgusting.
And it's nothing to do with
disgusting.
Right, and it's nothing to do with
I don't
she's
care
50.
if you're skinny. It looks unhealthy, malnourished, like you're
Become
starving yourself. You need vitamins.
Yeah, she needs nutrients, actual nutrients. And not that we care one way or the other, but it's just painfully obvious, and it looks worse as the time is passing. So we've got a whole range of clips, guys, from stuff that you've heard in breakdowns, obviously, from the last while, but also I got some from the archives that I think are kind of important because we haven't had a chance to go through them. But one of the first ones was from last year, and do you remember the guy that was on the show and did he wasn't on the show, but they talked about a 60-something-year-old guy who did 1,000 planks?
Yes.
And he was shitting
Howard
all over.
Yeah.
So
I could have done it if I had the right.
So I want you to talk about this one when it's played, Bob.
Like a full-time job, and the guy's 62 years old. He did a plank for 8 hours and 15 minutes, and I went, that is unbelievable. And the guy...
So I got it wrong, guys. Sorry, but I was close.
The guy's ripped.
Yeah, but he looked like he was going to die at the end of it.
I know, and I did say to myself, like, well, if that guy's 62 and he could be doing that, I guess maybe I'm being a baby. But I'm telling you, I can't do that shit. I got a full-time job. When I'm not here, I'm busy, talking to the guys or working on stuff. I don't have time for that. Fuck it.
He sounded like Ralph when was tasked to explain himself, because he had to sort of he kind of trails off, like he realizes he's full of shit at the last moment.
Does anyone
Sam?
realize what a full-time job is? It's 40 hours a week.
3 days a week. So, Bob?
Jesus Christ.
It's just, they don't want anyone to get any credit ever. They just have to fucking take away. Why couldn't he have just left it at I wish I could do that. That's incredible.
Right,
if I was thinking that, I never go, if someone did something amazing, I just, at the end of it, don't go, I don't have time for that. I have a fucking full-time job. Because it just strips it away.
Devaluing.
It's also apples and oranges. He's doing a plank. You work a job. How the fuck did you manage to devalue it and put those two together?
Right. Would it have been any different? Would it have been any different if
that?
the guy was spinning plates for 2 days straight and that was the accomplishment and he's comparing it to work?
Do you think if he goes to Cirque du Soleil, he just gets up in a huff and is like, I fucking work full time? When they're swallowing knives and spinning in the air.
Someone's bent their head right into their asshole at Cirque du Soleil, and he's like, "Man, I can't deal with this, man. I got a pitch meeting in 2 weeks.
I gotta talk to the guys."
Exactly. So one of the next clips is called Bob Dee. Here's your homework assignment.
Harry, you're on the air in Colorado, beautiful Colorado. I've been there.
Hey, Howard, happy birthday. I'm calling because I tried to call last week, and while you guys were off, I love the app. And you guys were playing all kinds of great arguments, JD's engagement, Ronnie's Christmas party. Anyway, it sent me down a YouTube rabbit hole because I was looking for my favorite pet.
So here we have a fake caller talking about memory lane a little bit, but there's no way this is a real caller because he would never let someone drone on for 30 seconds with no agenda, or seemingly no agenda, unless it was pre-planned. And it does sound a little too, even though it's muffled a bit, it sounds like too connected. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it
sounds
like the
clean.
connection's too good. Yeah, even though she's probably on a webcam mic or something like that. Sam?
She's probably hiding under his desk with a microphone. Here, talk.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm teasing, but you're right. Exactly. I was going to say the same thing you did, that there is no way back in the day he'd be like, what's your point? You got nothing.
Yes.
Bye.
He'd be angry. He'd be like, get the fuck off, whatever. If he couldn't swear, then he'd be saying, this is boring me. Exactly.
Argument that you guys had years ago, which then sent me down all these other videos. And I just wanted to tell you, my God, have you aged well? You are, not that I didn't think you were good looking before, but you have really aged into your looks. you're freaking gorgeous now compared.
Really? Wow.
See, what are you trying to change?
Well, it's true. I mean, listen, Sarah, I don't see myself. First of all, Sarah, when you call in, don't be on speakerphone.
Okay, so he's the fake dressing down because of her sound quality. Meanwhile, he let her speak for almost a minute.
You're gorgeous.
So I think I'll play a little more. It's a 4-minute clip. We're not going to play all of it, but this was the one that I think, Bob, you wanted to discuss at a long time ago, actually, because of the whole setup to make him feel better about himself.
Pick up your phone.
Okay, I'm on my phone.
Yeah, much better.
Can you hear me better?
Yes, of course. You can't be on a speakerphone when you call into a radio show. You just cannot do that. I was almost going to hang up on you because of the echo.
He's such a fucking bad actor. He's such a bad actor.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry.
Conversation.
You're so good looking. You're so good looking now, Howard.
Is it possible, Sarah? And I don't want to. This is probably Beth's birthday gift to me. She probably hired this woman to make me feel better.
She hired this woman to make you up
with his money.
I was just at a birthday party last night for my friend Jake. His sister said his mother put secret admirer notes in her backpack in middle school and to make herself feel better because she thought she was ugly in middle school. So she did it for like a year to make herself feel better.
Well, you're seeing
this is what this is.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
you're seeing a 69-year-old man do that right now. It's the exact equivalent. I think there's something with what they say about Beth is why I had you pull this. Now I can't remember though. What happens? Yeah, play a little bit more.
I'll play a little bit more.
Yeah.
I tried to call last week to have this conversation.
Sarah, let me ask you something. Do you? There's something that bothers me. You say I've gotten better looking. Do you think all of the women who rejected me many years ago are aware of who I am now, and are they upset with themselves that they didn't stay with me or
they're
be with
dying inside?
Okay, I think I think we found the angle.
Yeah, I think this is why I had you pull it. We see this shit now, like this just relentless need for vengeance.
He always did this though, Bob. Like he's been doing this. Don't you wish you would have dated me? He's been doing this since the 80s. He's been bullying women and saying, "Don't you wish you had me? I'm rich. I'm famous. Don't you wish you would have stayed with me? I wish all those girls in high school could find me." And
he brought
crazy.
one on. He brought one on to the Fox pilot. He brought an ex flame or as like someone that at a college whatever, and she was there with her husband. She was pregnant, and she was so indifferent, even though because he was on a fucking test pilot, and she was expected to go, fawn over you. I'm going to leave my husband for you.
He's like, "What do you drive?" Well, my wife drives
Right, exactly. So
it's just people have moved on in life, man. Like it blows my mind whenever I hear these people go on about these things and at their age and still be holding on to this. And like he staged this call to tell him that he's good looking.
Right.
I mean, seriously.
Like I'll play a little more. I'll play a little more just to see if we get anything more out of it, just to see how deep
I think there is something. Okay. Yeah.
They are.
Inside. They're dying.
See, this makes me happy because for some reason, and I don't know what the psychological profile of me would be. It's probably disturbing, but that's important to me. I want them to feel somehow like, oh, fuck.
They should all lament. All of them.
Look, I got an email. I got an email from my friend Leslie, who I knew like when I was 12. I had a mad ass crush on her.
Mad ass crush.
Like maybe when I was.
I think he meant to say man ass crush.
15 or 16. She developed into a real beauty, and I would have done anything to be her boyfriend. Anything. She didn't give me one look. And she.
Okay, Jesus Christ! Who attributes such value to?
We're talking about when he was 12.
Well, I mean,
and he wanted to
be her. He's shitty with years too.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. I don't care if he's talking about when he's 25.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're like, you're a kid. I just, that disturbs me that he's holding on to this thing from when he's that young.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not really sure. I feel like something else happened in this clip, but maybe I just had it pulled because of just this general, like, I know that he's always gone on about this, like all these people are upset about it, but it's like to still at that age, like I feel like there's just, to me, there's more of a theme of just vengeance now, and he's really upfront about it, and he's really trying to pull other people that he's interviewing in on it, and it's almost like the projection, like the vengeance themes I felt like before had a little bit of a comedic edge to it, like he'd almost self-deprecate, but now it's like real vitriol and like serious disdain for people that we're seeing, like where it's charmless, it doesn't really have any kind of comedic aspect. And even with this call, I mean, what does a listener get out of this fucking call? This is just
Well, exactly. I think you're right, and it's becoming totally self-serving.
Yeah.
There's no redeeming aspects about any of this. And this angle is so transparent, it's embarrassing. So that's why when you say, who would do something this ridiculously transparent and pathetic? Why is he doing this? One is what I want to know. Like, why is he doing this? And the other thing is, if you think, okay, it's not that big of a deal. I am my age. Bob, you and I are around the same age. Could you imagine thinking about past relationships in this sort of term? Or like, I can't even picture myself going there in my head, like thinking this way. I cannot. I try. No. I actually tried. I go, okay, somebody was mean to me on the bus and maybe I liked him. I'm like, I don't even remember. I don't even know who was on my fucking bus. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I understand grudges. I understand if you would hate a person for the rest of their life because of something they did, because it's something that affected you so completely. Yeah. But he's talking about an like unrequited, presumed unrequited like crush. Unreciprocated crush that didn't happen, which is something almost everybody has grown up with at least once, and that it just builds your character. And who the fuck obsesses on this or thinks it's entertaining on a radio show or a podcast, which is what it fucking is at this point.
Right. No, I get, like, if something happens to you as a kid, I understand holding on to that. I'm just talking about how superficial the nature of what he's like this was a 12-year-old crush, she didn't like him back, like that's not something that I would consider to be a highly traumatic event that you would hold on to in your 70s.
But this is so transparent, like what he's doing for his ego here, and anyone with a fucking a set of ears can understand what's going on right now. Why is he doing this is what I want to know.
That's like all of his mechanisms and tools that he used to use, which I think I was telling Fillmore prior to starting this, I think he learned a lot of those tools in therapy, to be honest. But it's almost like he's not going to bother with them any longer. He's not going to inconvenience himself to go through this. He's not going to like cloak it in humor. He's not going to cloak it in abusing a staff member or whatever. It's like he's just flagrantly, even with this call, like I guess this is somewhat of an attempt to cloak it, but it's pretty straightforward, like.
Yeah. So you're basically saying he's not doing the lip service of pretending to. He knows what he is. He knows what he wants out of it. He wants this fast transaction. He's not pretending that it's not fast food. He's just going through the drive-thru and fucking opening the fucking Big Mac in the car and scarfing it down, basically. He doesn't give a shit anymore.
Yeah.
He's not pretending.
He's not, I haven't eaten all day or making excuses. He's ripping the bag open. Like he's just where he is. His ability to, his energy to even keep that up, I think, is going down.
He wants to be complimented.
he needs it.
I
mean, this is his drug. Like, this is what they do. This is how they survive is adoration and
Ew.
Yeah.
Well, this is the
supply.
pathetic, well, this is the pathetic need, but also it's pathetic in the sense that who has to hire someone to tell you look good? Well, a lot of famous people are like this. It's not unique to him. It's a lot of celebrities need to have their asses kissed. Oh, does my ass look too big? Oh, geez, do I look good? And they have mirrors all around. It probably looks like a fun house at a state fair. Some of these people just to make them look human. But either way, a lot of the clips that we're going to play today are all based on delusion. And this next clip is part of that. It's called Delusional Wiggy Going Deeper into Denial.
Mel B probably was the only one who really knew what
Actually, this was an AGT clip. He's shitting on AGT again, still 5 years after he was fucking let go, 6 years after he was let go. He cannot let that one go. That one's that's a whole other subtext. We are going to do an AGT thing one eventually, and it's going to be epic.
She had a legitimate career where she made money making music and selling albums.
Yeah. But and Simon's a big turd. He walks around like he knows something. He's just a fucking guy who I don't even know what he does. He claims he's a record executive or something. I don't know. Maybe he's got some talent.
He was a curmudgeon. That was really it.
I love that. The guy's a fucking executive producer. He owns the fucking television shows. He owns shows across the world and is worth probably $1 billion. I'm sure he's worth more than Wig.
He's a curmudgeon. He's Scrooge. That's what he does.
What he's not mentioning is that he had your ass shit can from the show he executive produced.
He realized you were a big waste of money, and he let everyone know.
Right. I mean, it's funny that they took the chance on him anyway. We'll go down that rabbit hole another time. But anyway, just want you to listen to the rest of it.
It was like he was annoyed by everything.
You're horrible. Well, hey, douchebag, you invited me to come down here. Fuck you.
When you walked out, I was ready to be bored.
Okay, King Tut.
We couldn't have a little shitty. We couldn't go 5 seconds without a shitty accent somewhere in there. So
it's
that ties into the vengeance thing.
Yeah, it's like we're going through his inner dialogue of what he's telling himself to like. Mm-hmm. He's not like actually describing an experience where the guy was an asshole. It's like he knows that the guy's better than him. And this is the way that they sort of deal with that reality and convince the false ego. That's another thing that's really disturbed me about the shows, why I had to take a break, is it's like we're hearing this inner dialogue. We're hearing things that I've seen in, schizophrenic type people, which was really getting disturbing. And there are some ties with that in severe NPD, but yeah, like going through his inner mind of what he's telling himself and about Simon. And it's just, I don't know. It's all getting creepy for me.
Sam?
So you said he is presenting Simon as he's saying, this is how he feels about him, but he's giving no evidence to suggest that he's actually doing the things that Howard is saying. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So he's giving no concrete evidence. He's just projecting this onto him. Robin then parrots it by saying he's just a curmudgeon and whatever. But there's no solid evidence of this is actually what happened. There's no real interaction or experience between the two of them. So it's this long, hateful, and this is not just the only clip. I mean, he has gone on and on about Simon in this way that Bob's talking about, where it is schizophrenic. Like he's almost developed an entire life and relationship with Simon, even though he's never had an interaction with him.
No, because Simon wasn't on the show. He was still executing. He was EP on the show, even though he was doing the X Factor or something, and then he replaced Howard. Now this is a 67-year-old guy walking around going, "I'm crushing your head." Kids in the hall.
Yeah,
he's literally doing these little toy soldier battle reenactments to things that never happened. Like he's explained how he told off, Heidi Klum during the show, like, stop singing into my ear and stop fucking bothering me. And I told the execs and I did this and this. I'm sure he bitched and moaned and complained, but nobody took him seriously. At any rate, there's loads of other clips, guys. This one ties into that whole revenge thing. It's called Projection, about revenge on girls from the past.
What I'm saying is, like, I find that the greatest thing about fame. Like, it must have been such a charge. Like, did you date that girl for a while, and then all of a sudden, like, she's probably so aware of your career, and like, I dated that guy, and she'd probably like, oh, fuck, I wish I could have married him or something. You know what I mean?
Okay, so was an interview, and if I'm not mistaken, I think it might have been Machine Gun Kelly. I think it is from an interview. It might have been Adam Levine. I don't remember the context, but it was from March 31st of 2020. Yeah, Bob.
Yeah, like, and the other thing that's creeping me out with these revenge things is it's almost like he's getting worked up and he's like frothing at the mouth. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Doesn't it just make you want, like, he's like almost describing a fetish, like someone who's, like, just is into some weird, like, don't you just love it when like, he's just beside himself, completely taken over by this animal thing. Like, it's creepy as fuck.
It's disturbing as shit.
The revenge thing goes with the father thing too. So he does it with, and he projects it on all his guests, on past relationships. Like, see, shouldn't they have fucking kissed your ass, and look at everything you have, and you should have. So it's that, and it's your father, your mother, it's all of that. And he projects it on all of his guests. And I'm telling you, the majority of the time, most of his guests have a well-being that they don't feel vulnerable like that. They don't feel like that. They're whole. They have their own lives. They have their relationships. They've either reconciled with people in their lives, or they've discarded them and, moved on in life. They're coming from a higher place. And Wig is just trying to bring them down, and they're like, no, we don't feel this way. I don't feel this way at all.
Like, it'd be like if he had Michael J. Fox in and asked him, like, look, you don't have a voodoo doll full of, with Justine Bateman, and put pins in it and stick pins in the eyes and wish, evil things. Like, no. And because they don't have any other interaction with him, they're only guests for the one time. They just figure, okay, this guy's a little fucked up, or this is all to be salacious because it's old Howard and this is what he does. But if they were there daily, what they would see and what they would hear constantly, I'm with Raven. I'm not surprised that everybody on the show isn't addicted to something, like completely fucking addicted to food, drugs, booze, whatever, over the counter, street drugs, anything to get them through working with this asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go with the next one. This clip is called Tall Coxman Tales of College.
This is the game we play. We're playing games. And believe me, I would love to, and I still remember this girl's first name from college, who cold-shouldered me as soon as she realized that I wasn't desirable to Rita. And I think about her a lot because I wanted her so bad.
You missed. You didn't get there.
I missed.
A swing and a miss.
A swing and a miss. I was so close. She was making me, and I...
Okay, so we went from elementary school. I'm sure there was high school clips somewhere in there, and this is college now. And it's just a constant, there's a theme, in case you haven't figured it out yet, guys.
And then I found out this girl grew up in Westchester. Now, for those of you not from New York, Westchester to me meant rich people. I grew up in a shithole. When I tell you I grew up in a shithole, I grew up in the worst fucking hellhole ever.
Oh, fuck off.
Oh my God.
I gotta stop you there, Howard. Roosevelt, New York. I don't know. I mean, I could take you to places that don't even look like they're in this fucking country. Like, I just wonder how many people got burned out on hearing about him being from a shithole.
Bill Burr did.
Oh yeah, totally.
Here's the thing too, that I've always, I've thought more about Howard and his New York upbringing. It's almost like he has no connection to New York. Maybe I'm wrong, but like, he doesn't talk about any sports teams he likes. He doesn't talk about a pizza place he went to. He doesn't talk about where he went to with his friends to go to concerts. Like, for me, there's this strange gap, like you would hear Artie, you knew he's from New Jersey, the way he talked about it, or Fred would talk about where he was in Connecticut, but Howard just seems to have this vacuum of living in Long Island and going into the city. Like I don't know anything about New York from him. Or even Opie and Anthony, I learned stuff about it.
Sure.
Is that an MPD thing though? Like, is that an MPD thing that you're so self-centered? Say he was so afflicted with this. Is it possible that he was so afflicted with this from such a young age that he wouldn't have cared or taken in his surroundings in, I don't know, a way you and I or Fillmore would have?
Yeah, they don't have interest in anything outside of themselves. They don't have empathy for anything outside of themselves.
So,
they
for
don't
example,
have any.
Sorry, Bob.
Go ahead.
So, for example, why fucking root for the Knicks? Why he goes to Knicks games, but he hates basketball. He doesn't talk on the show about, the Knicks really sucked. He doesn't do what Hardy would do and say, like, talk about a game that went really well or went really shitty, or a baseball guy that hit, a grand slam home run and, really excelled. He goes to Knicks games, but never talks about basketball on the fucking show. Why would you do that?
He doesn't like baskbasketball.
Of course, he wants to be seen.
He doesn't like sports.
Fuck.
No, he wants to be seen. He doesn't talk about anything that would interest him, because why am I going to give the Knicks play on my show? Why am I going to give them press by talking about them as if they're more important than me? That's the sense I get anyway.
You're right though. It is odd. It's like, he's from there because he talks about where he lives, but you're right. They're really, other than, I don't know, Scores and Nobu, how the fuck else would you know?
Those are the two things that I was thinking
else.
of too.
He doesn't do anything else.
Yeah. So we'll
but
continue
then
the rest.
Then you have his wife horse trotting around everywhere, so maybe that's how you know.
Well, also he was more grounded when he was with Allison, because she kind of kept. Well, like, I guess basically what I just said. She kept him more grounded, if in a sense, but not full 100%. It was always she was tethering him, but he was still, like, his feet were still off the ground. You know what I mean? Like she was reality, as if you're going to get close to reality. But then even with Allison, I believe, did they live in Staten Island? Was that where he ended up living with
Long
her
Island.
back in the day? No, I know from Long Island, but I thought originally they got an estate in Staten Island just to get the fuck away from the city.
I'd have to look at the Colford book.
Yeah, I got to look at the Colford book, but I could be wrong, guys. Tell me in the comments. But either way, he definitely wanted isolation. And who wouldn't want to, if you're him, who wouldn't want to be in the fucking heart of New York doing all the things New Yorkers could do if they had unlimited cash like he did? I'd be going to fucking art galleries, concerts up the yin-yang. I don't know that I'd sleep.
I know.
Yeah.
And so what did he do? He was bitching about getting free radio concert tickets for the Jingle Ball. Fucking asshole.
He could get backstage if he wanted to. What fucking tickets?
Someone on the Facebook group one day, there was some, I don't know if it was another broken cat tweet or Instagram post, but I commented something on it, and I can't remember who it was, and they were like, Bob, could you imagine having the resources they have, and this is her fucking Instagram?
Yeah.
Like, she has the same Instagram of someone who lives in, like, rural, Alabama with no money. Yeah. Like, it's the same thing. They don't do shit. Like, if you would never know that they have access to the networks of people and the money that they do. It's all just pictures of cats and, like, a couch and whatever. You're just like, what are you doing?
Of, like, yeah, it's just pictures of her decaying in front of our eyes.
Eating a cereal bowl. What the fuck? Like, if I had millions of dollars, every picture would be a new fucking island. Who knows,
Yeah, you'd see Bob in
Santorini,
Bob in Ibiza.
It would be like,
Bob in
I'd be like, everything is crappy in New York. Here's a new school.
Yeah.
Everybody's poor. Here's a new apartment complex. I'm rich. These people do nothing. All they do is take cat eyeballs and fucking moan and groan about what?
I just got this image of Bob with, like, this tricked out drum workshop kit, all like diamond and gold on top of Mount Everest with a team of people around him with a heat tent, so he wouldn't have to actually put on a suit for the outdoors.
That's
and
the
then
type
selfie.
of shit you would see.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, why wouldn't you get the best car, the best house, the best this with that kind of fucking scratch? I mean, you could go the Tyson route and lose it all, but he's never going to lose it.
Well,
or
again,
go
like
somewhere, travel. He goes nowhere. He goes to Mexico and leaves early.
Well, the thing too with them trashing, I don't know that show with the obese girls,
sisters,
but the thought of this like multi-millionaire and her just trashing these girls in their mansion, and like that's the best thing they have to do. Like even with all that resource and everything, they're engaging in the same behavior that's, a lower or middle class person is doing. It makes no sense. I mean, it's
not even it's IQ. It's like these two low IQ people they have everything in the world, the resources, what they could do with it, where they can go, what they could spend their time talking about. And what do? They watch Tammy and some fuck, fat as fuck, washing themselves and eating themselves to death, singing the theme song around a bunch of like 20 cats in fucking litter boxes. I mean, it's disgusting. It might as well be an episode of Hoarders.
Not to sound not to sound like some kind of asshole. I'm gonna get that anyway, so I apologize, girls, but
you're a little late for that.
Well, there's girls I grew up with. I'm sure in every cohort it's the same thing. There's hot girls that I knew growing up. They always had that big fat fuck friend to make themselves look better by comparison. There was always the tag along really obese or overweight girl to make the really hot insecure one feel better about herself. In my opinion, that's exactly what these two assholes are doing when they watch a show like that and trash them. Like, we can't eat. We don't eat. But we want to make fun of those people who overeat and don't have control, because that does something for our self-esteem, which is so fucking low. Beth has gone on the air many times, and he said how she's got like no self-esteem, like when Sal made fun of her for the horse comment, and she was so upset by that, and I believe she was if she heard it, and that we obviously know he has no self-esteem, because look at him, he looks like a fucking gargoyle on the fucking Dakota, and so it makes in a way it's just to pop up their fucking ego. That there's no other reason to watch that show. You're entertained by really obese people. You should be disgusted. You should be like, it's too sad. I don't want to watch that.
That's how I feel when I see those things, and that's what really and what disturbs me is, like, do you know how ugly you have to be inside to need to trash these sick girls? And not only like, and not even to justify it for someone, but like, I get if you're a person in a situation that doesn't have a lot going for them, and like, you that's the one thing that you are doing better than, and you get on there and you watch it and you trash them. But it's like, here we have people that have resources, that have all this stuff, and like, you're resorting, like, you have to be so fucking ugly inside to do that,
right? And then mock them on the air. I mean, like, literally, like, we're the 1,000-pound sisters.
Well,
and it's revolting.
And they're singing the song.
Well, see, here's another comment I was going to say. Often with people with NPD, the only way that you're able to bond with them, or the only way they'll really let you speak and not be critical, is if you're also being abusive or negative. So like, I've read about people saying, the only time my mom wanted to talk to me is when I was talking about something negative, or when we were trashing a neighbor. And so like a good example of that was Howard was talking on one clip I heard where he's like, the way I would cheer my mom up was I would make fun of the neighbors. Like, she would, it was in it might've been this extended interview. Somebody tagged me in it. I think he was on maybe Letterman or something like that.
Okay.
And he was talking about the way that he would cheer. Oh, Colbert. It was a Colbert thing, because his mom was also depressed.
Okay.
But he's like, the only way, he's like, I was always trying to cheer my mom up. I was always gauging her. And the way I would do that was like, I would make fun of the neighbors. And she would laugh. So it's like, look at what they're doing here. Like, they're both in a good mood. They're into like saying, you know, repeating this little show. I don't know what it was, little jingle. And they're like enjoying themselves, because that's like the only time they'll really allow you to enjoy yourself or engage with you is if you're being negative, if you're being abusive. So that was another aspect that kind of disturbed me about that show a little bit, or them talking about watching that show.
Yeah. So this is the last. So sorry, Sam, please.
Your wife, I know, because she's Irish. There's a author, Flannery O'Connor, and it reminds me of the story Revelation. And the Turpins are sitting in a doctor's office, and she's immediately judging every single person in the doctor's office, like just maniacally judging everyone, like horribly, you know? And she just has these horrible observations, but because she thinks of herself in some certain way, she feels it's okay to be doing this. And then at the end of the story, I think it's like somebody comes up to her face and yells something in her face and starts attacking her in the waiting room. And it's like, oh, Henry. And it's like, I think it's kind of like that. Like, it's just this disgusting judgment on people that, why are you doing this?
Well, with Beth, I'm sure it's just to diffuse or deflate any kind of abuse she's going to get from him. But with his mother, it would be like that. There was a joke Greg Fitzsimmons told. I'm sure it's an old Catskills joke. There's these, the waiter goes up to, at a restaurant, goes up to the two Jewish old ladies that have finished their meal. And he goes, "Ladies, was anything okay?" Just love that joke.
To the point that the state had to come in and run the high school. It's never been done in our country before. It was run like a prison. There's barbed wire around my high school. That's how bad it was.
He makes it sound like he was in the Warsaw Ghetto. I mean, this is when he talks about this shit, and we know all about it, guys. And anybody on our fucking YouTube channel wants to. There's one guy that constantly wants to debate. He goes, "Roosevelt is a shithole." Okay, perhaps it's turned into a very bad place. But when he was there, you have no way of knowing. Okay, we have a fairly solid understanding of how bad it was back in the day because of their census report. You could actually look at numbers and show how many people were employed, how many, not GDP, what do you call it? The gross, like the median income at the time. It would indicate the level of success in the neighborhood at the time when he left, and then when they decided they were going to stay longer. So. Sure. It wasn't like Dachau. It was, wasn't Rikers Island.
The people in the community, that changeover was just happening in real time when he was there, and then he left. He was there for 2 years.
Not even 1 year in Roosevelt, and then he spent 1 year still at Roosevelt, and then while he was in high school, while at Roosevelt, and then the rest of high school he was in Rockville Center.
I imagine it being like getting out in like 35.
Yeah,
from Europe.
Yeah,
from Germany. You know what I mean?
It was just a white flight neighborhood, and they hung over there an extra 8 months. Like that's right. All it was. Like, yeah, for real bad ghettos. Like there's places in Chicago that they're nightmares right now, but they weren't. They used to be all Jewish and Italian, like middle class. Like, yeah, it's a shithole now. But if I lived back there in 1950 or 60, it was probably completely standard for that area. So
totally.
That's totally like most cities. Like when I say, "Oh, my grandparents grew up on the West Side," people are like, "What?" And I'm like, the West Side wasn't the West Side it is now. The West Side was like fine.
Right. Like the way Little Italy really is much smaller and isn't really Little Italy anymore in New York. It's been, I don't know, taken over, gentrified, whatever. And then the Italians moved away. Like they all got better stations in life and got to a higher plateau and moved away. It happens in so many big cities.
And I'm in college now, and this hot chick who looks like a fucking supermodel, she tells me she grew up in Westchester. I knew of Westchester. I had
Anyway, that's the end of that clip.
I knew of Westchester. That's like, could you imagine like a town that was right next to yours? Like, okay, I could think of, I live in, okay, so East Aurora, Depew, Lancaster, West Seneca, like all these surrounding area towns, Buffalo, that are within 15 minutes of each other. Who can't, I think I've heard of Westchester.
Mm-hmm.
Like what, in a tall tale, a myth? What are you talking about?
This next clip, if I can play it, is called "Fuck Right Off, You Wigged Faggot." People walk all over me, Robin.
I can't tell you what goes on in our workplace. I know what goes on in my workplace, and you know who's abused in my workplace? Me.
This is about Ellen.
These guys, they fucking run around.
You should be complaining about the people who work for you.
Yeah, I mean, who do I go to? I hire people, and then they walk all over me.
Oh, God. It's just a victim. Like, he's always the victim, right? The next clip we're going to play, guys, is called Bitter Pills, Anger, and Therapy. Oh, my.
So you're not driven by bitterness. You're not. You don't appear to be a bitter guy. I look at my childhood. I still can't get past it, and I'm older than you. I mean, I get very angry.
I think that it perhaps is fueled, but I long ago defeated them.
How'd you do that? Did you ever go into therapy? Did you ever sit in therapy?
No. I mean, like we did. Like there was some like band therapy stuff. But
no, this is from the Tom Morello interview, which was very recent, guys. Sorry to get so recent, but again, all these clips range from January of the previous year to present day because we wanted to get a good mix for Bob, and it just happened to be one of the more recent ones. So play the rest of that one out.
But it wasn't. It's just like I do have to, like, there was a tremendous amount of resolve and a tremendous amount of confidence that I was given by my family was really supportive, Howard. Like my mom and then her parents and her brother and sister. Like I always had this sense of self-worth. Like it's hard to even describe. Like when you're a unicorn, like I was in town. Like the kids.
That's the end of that clip. Bob, I wanted to ask you something because we were going to do a Ray specific in the future. Ray Howard relationship based. Psych podcast episode. Mm-hmm. I understand. I can totally get the situation if he was a useless piece of shit, which we know he is now, and he's always been a useless piece of shit. Your parents, though,
Fair enough.
I can believe his. Is it your contention, really briefly, that as supportive as Ben might have been, and Ray may or may not have been? It was a dichotomy. Like Ray would have been, everything's going to go to shit, and Ben's like, well, we'll try it. Like more positive minded.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
and probably a lot of his attention was, Howard's talked about how his dad, I guess, even at one point, told his mom, "Let's just become alcoholics." Mm-hmm. I think Ben really put a lot of attention in resolving the episode that she was going through. And again, that's going to take some attention away from Howard, which he probably resented. But whenever you have these figures like a Ray, just these emotional cancers, I mean, it can really destroy a family dynamic. But yeah, I would guess that Ben was probably a little bit more the, like even that thing, like, hey, let's try being alcoholics, like let's do something. Let's
proactive.
Yeah.
Even that, we can call that. I don't know if becoming an alcoholic is being proactive, but it's something.
No.
It's better than just being a depressive. I don't know.
Sure.
Sam?
Yeah, and alcohol was thought of like a lot differently back in the day. I mean, anyone watching Mad Men could attest to that. Totally. So do you think, because I've joined the NPD Reddit page just to see how kids affected by NPD react, and they give certain scenarios in their lives. And I was wondering, do you think, well, two things. One is I think that Ray, I watched a documentary on how Jewish children, survivors of Holocaust, how they were parented so coldly when they came to America and started families of their own, how disconnected and unloving their childhood was for a lot of them. I'm not saying all of them, but this documentary focused on just how sad and vacant and cold it was. And of course they pushed for them to be, successful in their careers and professions and, the American dream aspect, but like emotionally unavailable and never talked about all the stuff they went through, but also had no emotional availability as loving parents. And then the NPD, could she have had some of that too and pass that down? I'm not.
Yes. I mean, definitely. She suffered, usually you'll see some trauma in the childhood for people that go on to develop NPD. And it's kind of a big rabbit hole to go down. But, Sam Vakinin, who is Jewish, he kind of has postulated that the reason for so much narcissism in the Jewish community, or this sort of self-absorbed, like even humor, or just like certain stereotypes, he thinks that a lot of that was generational after the Holocaust, this sort of acute trauma to this group of people. So, not to go into that, that's a whole nother rabbit hole. But yeah, definitely his mom would have developed something like that, and what she would describe. I think that, she had lost sisters, her family was separated, see, another really big onset, sometimes there will be a life event, and Howard describes her sister, I believe her sister died. Yeah. And she really went into this thing, whatever happened, where it was really severe, and it sounded really severe. They actually, the term that kind of gets used that came to my mind when you were describing it as a refrigerator mom, where it's just very cold, unavailable. And ultimately what that does is it causes neglect, and it causes neglect of the child's emotional needs. And in a way it is an abusive thing. And Howard also describes how he always had to gauge his mom's, he was always gauging where she was, if she was happy. Like they really put their happiness onto other people. It becomes a thing where a really common thing is you'll see that the child becomes the parent. The child now becomes emotionally responsible for the parent's happiness. Yeah. And that's a traumatic event for a kid. So.
But I just want to cut in just one thing. Here's the problem that I have with that whole narrative that he keeps going on about. Number one, you cannot hang your hat on that the rest of your life and blame your parents for things that you have claimed you've gone to a psychiatrist to ameliorate, to fix, and then bitch about it when you're 67. You're supposed to come to terms as an adult later on and say, look, if the therapy, Gary said it himself, if the therapy ain't working after 20 years, switch therapists.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you've developed a personality disorder, it doesn't work like that, though.
Right.
You're describing someone who's neurotypical, and that would be the right course of action. But if a personality disorder was able to be set in place, that's not going to happen. They're going to continue to dwell on these events and be consumed with the things that he's consumed with now. With more extroverted narcissism, you see a lot more of these themes of, I own this company, I know Michael Jordan, I've done this, I have this amount of money. When you go into a more introverted, covert form, you start to have fantasies about revenge, fantasies of getting back at people, proving people wrong. You start to almost gaslight your own reality and smear campaign people. It's like it's just the same mechanism, but it's manifesting itself in a different way in Howard's particular form of NPD.
Sam? So do you think how he perceived Ray to be cold as a child, and his way to I guess emotionally connect with her, or connect with her in some way, or constantly temperature checking her, do you think that has now resolved in some form of, well, obviously NPD, but he is not temperature checking her, he's temperature checking himself. It's turned inward, like that whole entire him temperature checking Ray was a form of, how is my day going to go? how is my day going to go as a child? Because it's going to be based on what my mother feels like. So I'm going to do what I have to do in order to survive this kind of like emotional vacancy here.
Correct.
And then when you get older, you then turn that inward and you're just kind of only worried about, how do I get my needs? You
turn it outward. So what is Beth constantly doing with Howard? She's constantly checking him. She's watching his face. She's watching his mood. She's watching what Ray did to him, he now does to her. Amazing. Over time. So people, like, I'll give you an example, really extreme example. Not all, but people who molest children were molested themselves most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And what I see is, as time goes on, people don't really consciously realize they're doing it, but they'll start to become the abusers themselves, and they'll turn what they were dealing with, they'll just adapt that behavior, because that behavior has made such an imprint on them and who they are, that it's almost wired them to emulate that sort of behavior. So you see a lot of people, even though he was neglected by his mom and his mom was consumed with her, so he wound up doing the same thing to his kids. And then he winds up having Beth now, who's constantly got to gauge him, constantly got to gauge his mood. And if he's not happy, then she can't be happy.
Well, this is the thing we'll never know, and I wish we did know this. By the way, because we're going to play a clip about Robin giving him shit about him not raising his kids, and no, and we'll never know exactly how hands off he was, but we have a good idea based on what we've heard from clips.
Yeah.
Do you believe the way he neglected his own children was in any way commensurate to the way Ray might have neglected him growing up? I think there's no way.
I don't think it's exactly the same.
Like with him, it was physical. Like he physically was not there, as well as emotionally. With Ray, she was there, but she was just not in a state to be a parent, I guess, at that point.
There's a deficit of empathy.
Yes.
And it's the same, essentially the same root cause. It just manifested itself in different ways. And Howard talks a lot about how I think we're going to play a clip later, how he had to learn to basically have empathy and care about his kids. I mean, it wasn't an innate behavior for him. He had to learn that. So I don't think it was the exact same thing that he put the problem, but he pretty outwardly resented having kids. And he made a room to lock himself away from them.
But if he had to learn empathy and compassion and nurturing children, Ray, for all purposes, not that she was neglectful, not that she wasn't there, but wouldn't that do something to a child that is constantly worried about, if they're worried about your emotional state, that leaves a vacuum for what is their emotional state going to be growing up. Like, you want your children to feel confident. You want them to feel not only mentally okay, but emotionally okay. And if you're not doing that, that has to have left him with a huge hole. If you're worried about your mother not having the emotions to correctly parent, that has to fuck you up.
Yeah, and it did. It manifested as a personality disorder.
But then again, at some point, you have to. If his therapist was doing their job,
can you
change the? Well, that's no, you can't in his case. But the average person. The average person who had his issues would be able to treat it in therapy, at least to the point where he could actually think of his daughters as daughters and not just, expenses.
Well, yeah, when you're at that point to where he was saying some of the stuff that he was saying, how he wanted his kids to admire him.
Yes.
As fans.
You're pretty far gone at that point. Normally what you'll hear from people is, once I had my kid, I realized that my life was over and I needed, was dedicated to raising my kid. I had to be there. That's normally the type of stuff that I hear from my friends. I don't hear that, like, they don't know how to be they don't know how to care about their kids. It's an unusual thing to say.
I think about, like, when you go through something traumatic in life, you want to, as much as you can, shelter your child and save your child from that emotional harm that's happening around them, and not impact them as much as you possibly can, and keep everything as normal as possible. So in Howard's case, it seems like the opposite, that every little tilt of his life, she was extreme, like the pain, the tragedy, the suffering. No parent would ever amplify that. Like, you do everything you can to shelter your children from that.
Right. Ideally.
Yeah.
Well, here's a question for you, Bob. Do you think when Allison left him, and I don't want to go down this road for very long, but do you think when she left him, and she, of course, was learned in psychology a fair bit by that point, she had done an MA in social work, and she'd already had a psychology degree, I believe. Do you believe when she left him and when they divorced that she believed he'd never get better?
Yes.
Okay, and so even today with psychology being more, like, having more research done into certain levels of, narcissism or what have you, you think at that point she's like, he's a lost cause?
Yes.
Okay. I figured the same thing, because otherwise she might have stuck around if she thought there was some way of turning him around.
No.
Yeah.
I picture the Sopranos scene when his therapist just was like, yeah, we're going to get you a cognitive behavioral, I'm going to get you some referrals, and we're done. Dr. Melfi.
For that exact reason, that in the show that came up because they, I think they referenced a real study where they were saying when psychopath people with, legit
sociopaths,
So yeah,
when they go in to get therapy, they become more equipped to fake emotion, to deceive people. That's basically what I think happened to Howard when he went into therapy.
It was just more tools to be abusive.
Yeah, or at least fake being human. Where, prior to that, it was like the narrative was that Howard was an asshole on the air, and when he was off the air, he was miserable and he hated his life. But it was like after the therapy started, it turned into this, oh, Howard's a great guy off the air. Howard buys people this. Howard pays for that. It was like this whole narrative changed, almost like these mechanisms to start to preserve this image. Yeah, I mean, I just saw that change, and it was like, it kind of made me think of that scene in The Sopranos, and it's like he just became more cunning and deceptive via his work in therapy, even faking his NPD test that he took. Like, that's how aware he is of what he has.
Entirely.
And that's one of the clips we're going to play, not the Drew one, but the bullshit one later on that just basically parroted the previous thing, which I think was a complete work. However, it was just sort of a recall of the Dr. Drew narcissism test they did originally. So this short clip is called "When Nobody Stares at Me."
We go, like, we have friends who we go to dinner with and stuff. I'm not mentioning any names, of course. But the whole night they don't look at me. They, like, just stare at back, right? I mean, and then we go, oh my God.
There's somebody, I'm not going to say who, we were having dinner with, and it was just the three of us, because I think that he was not attached at the time.
Right.
I'm sure it was Billy Joel. It sounds exactly like him.
And we were having dinner, and Howard went up to go to the bathroom, and he took my hands, and he goes, "What are you doing with him?"
Oh my God.
That person sounds at least reasonable.
But
I
wonder what was going on.
What, in terms of that dinner?
Yeah, I wonder if it wasn't like, you're so hot and he's a ghoul.
No,
I wonder if he was just being shitty towards her, and he was like, "Why are you in this?" I don't, complete
the context
speculation.
It's speculation. It could very well be, "What are you doing with this asshole?"
Yeah.
Or no, it could just be just like when you see them on talk shows. There's very little relationship between them in the context of back and forth. When you see them together, it doesn't, even when they first were together in the 60 Minutes interview, there's very little that seems like it cements them together as a couple, like a loving, nurturing couple. It doesn't seem real.
She always seems like a hostage.
It seems very vapid and pathetic and fake. And
no chemistry at all.
No.
Right. So if somebody says, "What are you doing with this person?" Maybe it's just they're watching their interactions and realizing these are two totally separate people on two totally separate planes. This person's a depleted soul, and this person's a raging narcissist, just fucking sucking the life out of her. Like a fucking. What is it in Harry Potter? The guys that suck the souls.
Dementor, I think.
Dementors. Yeah.
Now
he's a fucking Dementor.
No, my kidult girlfriend is obsessed with Harry Potter, so I've seen
love
all.
I mean, I've read all the hardcover books. I was that loser that waited in line at Barnes and Noble when they would come out.
First copy, yeah. The next clip is called, and it ties into it. Beth feels like a hostage.
Something happened.
Do you remember after we watched Away, I said, let's go into your studio. And I said, how do you know that everything's working okay?
Yeah.
Well, the other day when I was deep cleaning in here.
Yeah, it was getting a little dirty in here, so Beth came down and did some deep cleaning.
I was
we know.
I was trying to be really careful, but I knocked this whole thing over.
Oh, this? Oh,
yes,
is that why
remember, I was like, what is that for? And then
this is from September of last year, guys, by the way.
I started scrubbing it, and look at this sign.
Yeah.
It says, do not use cleaner. It was absolutely scrubbed.
That's fine.
So I thought that was the camera. I did not sleep a whole night. And I even texted Kelly about it. I don't know if I should tell you. I didn't know if I should call Gary.
Of course you should tell me, but it's
What? What? I didn't know if I should tell my husband.
They're so
20
in love.
years.
They're so in love. It was just true love at sight.
I'm just thinking mommy dearest. That's all I have in my head when she starts talking like that. No wire hangers.
Yes. Think about it. Think about if you broke a glass out of the dishwasher and you were like, fuck, I didn't sleep a whole night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's basically what it is in
much.
Like middle class sense.
Yeah. Well, she's dreading like, what the fuck bullshit do I have to put up with if I do this, if this happens? And it must be a laundry list the size of, I don't know, the Dead Sea Scrolls, where, if you do this, he is going to bitch at you and moan and complain in your face until like it'll never end, because we've heard him do the Petcock saga when Gary's certain Gary things that's happened, or when something it goes an hour on the show when it should be a 2-minute conversation off the air, but he's it's going to be entertaining. A lot of the times it's not entertaining. It's just him going in circles, raging about the same bullshit that really seems pointless.
She's scared, and he's just going to completely destroy her peace. Like she's going to pay for this. That's what she's scared of.
Yeah.
So if she's agreed to this, contracts of sorts in this lifestyle.
Exactly.
So say she's, into this, and now it's basically what Munchausen syndrome or whatever, like when you're kidnapped and then they allow you to go to the grocery store, but you come back, you don't run away, like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Say it's like that. What is in her head? Is it just survival mode all the time for this?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Imagine.
My God.
So
she's such a vapid cunt that I don't care, but I
we don't have
just
sympathy.
really, she's never been, if she would have actually presented herself as a person that had some substance to her previously, like Allison, then I would care, but she never has.
That's right. She's not. She's thoroughly unlikable, and that was the one mistake he never counted on. He made her hateable, and that was, eventually, to me originally, I don't know how anybody else feels, but when she came on the scene, I was indifferent, And then I started to hate her. It was never because I was Team Allison all the way. And then this person had no characteristics until he started, she's in FHM, she's in Maxim, she's doing this and casino cinema. And all of a sudden he built her up. She speaks 5 languages, all this bullshit. And then you were like, she must be an idiot because he's an idiot.
The thing that I always got from that, and I think that this sort of crowbarred Beth, element into the show is like,
right.
Everyone to me is just like, yeah, you're rich, you got divorced, and you got a young wife. Like this isn't the first time this has happened. Like I don't need this whole story. I don't need her to be forced in. I don't need this, repetitive brainwashing thing going. Like it's fine, dude. You got a young wife. Like we get it. And I feel like a lot of his audience felt that way. Like it was just a storyline that nobody wanted that just kept coming into it. So,
right. And that, that in turn engendered some of the negative feelings people had towards her because you just never heard any problems until then, after the roasts and then the Ablo thing. Yeah. Sam.
But say we did like her, like pretend we liked her like Allison, say. And now this survival mode that you say is happening right now. How bad is it?
It's very bad. And I think this sort of breaking point where you'll hear, I think there's some stuff in this clip. I remember hearing this a while ago that's pretty disturbing. But I think he's talking about in the last thing, he's caving in, he's going out. That's all Beth saying, I have to leave. I have to get out of here. Like, I want to go for good. I need to get away. Like that to me is 100. That all of that was Beth. Yeah. And I really, being locked away with one of these people for that long, even in that big of a house
in a pandemic.
Fuck. I mean, I feel for people. I think it'd be bad.
Will she ever leave?
I think she could.
Maybe in a body
bag. There's so many of these instances where we hear back and like just not even a covert abuse, people being flagrantly abused for years, and they don't leave, and everybody's just why don't you leave? Why don't you? These scenarios can get so complicated and to a point where no one believes it's happening. We have celebrities now that's coming out. They were just abusing the masses for years and no one believed it. And so I've seen enough of these scenarios that I know it gets complicated. I know that she's very tied in with him. I don't know what they have worked out legally. I don't know what her family is dependent on. I don't know how addicted to the lifestyle she is herself. I mean, there's a lot of elements that go into something like this.
So because this is kind of also my thought, say she does leave. If somebody has been so programmed and so, into this narcissistic, relationship, this NPD relationship, if they leave on their own, my fear for her is she will totally collapse and overdose or something. Like she will totally tail if she leaves. Both. I worry about both, but I think if she leaves, she won't even know what to do with herself because she's been so programmed some way.
That's part of it too. That's part of it
the
too.
Guilt and the mind fuckery of it.
They really get into your psyche through repetition, through like really common ways of brainwashing people.
Because she's like a child.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and I hate to say this because I am saying it in the context that she is a person that I think is being subjected to abuse, but she obviously doesn't have the skill set that like an Allison has. She doesn't have kind of the mind power to withstand this. She's probably very afraid of the consequences would be my guess, because Howard's a connected, as much as we want to say he's a connected guy, he somehow got another contract. If they're paying him $20 an episode, I'm fucking amazed that he managed to get another one. So she's probably scared. I mean, you got a guy that can do damage to you. Really, really connected guy with agents and lawyers and he's gonna smear campaign you. He's gonna get on his show and humiliate you to the fullest extent that he can. I mean,
what's he gonna do? Continue to make sure she doesn't get any film work?
Well, his audience member might get upset with her.
Yeah, maybe both of them.
No more kitten bowl.
Exactly. You think she lives for the kitten bowl every year, and that's her. I asked Bob this outright ages ago. Do you think would it surprise you at all if she's carried out of there like as the victim of an OD one day?
I mean,
accidental, whatever.
There's a good chance that she's using something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's. I would doubt that she's using any kind of like. I think it. I think it is kind of like an Adderall, alcohol sort of tier
Lucky
level
Charms
thing. Lucky Charms. Again, when your central nervous system is on high alert like that, sugar will actually temporarily pacify the central nervous system.
Wow.
That's why drug addicts love lollipops when they come out. They
love
sugar.
So, do you remember the story when they were in Amsterdam with Gary and Sal and Mary smoked that weed and started going haywire? They said, give her a sugar cube and take her outside. That's because it'll calm your nervous system down, and then the oxygen will enrich the blood and it'll calm the mind down. So sugar actually will temporarily, of course, subdue the central nervous system. So
this sounds healthy. Let's go.
I don't know that she'll overdose.
Imagine you open up the steak drawer in their house and there's like gummy bears, and you open up the ice tray and there's like frozen gobstoppers or something.
Maybe she could be the next person. Remember that commercial for Tootsie Pop, and it was like the cartoon. How many licks?
How many licks to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop?
The world may never know.
Fucking Lucky Charms.
It's Beth. It's Beth's fucking horse
It's a
mouth.
fucking note at the end of it that says, get me out of here. Like a hostage victim.
SOS.
Yeah.
Instead of the Bazooka Joe come instead of a cartoon, it's a help note.
It's a big nothing.
And then I was like, well, are you going to do a run through? And you said no. And I said, well, you have enough time in the morning in case something's wrong.
But why wouldn't you tell me?
I don't know.
You tell me everything.
I
do you tell me everything, or are you
I
keeping
don't tell
things?
you
Pause it.
No, I don't tell you everything. Did you?
Do you hear how? Do you tell me everything? Do you hear like how aggressive and bullying?
Yeah, accusatory.
Like, yeah. Do you tell? You're keeping shit from. I know you've been keeping shit. Like,
you guys are men. When I hear that, it makes I literally am like, my shoulders go back, and I'm like, it makes me go back. Like my whole body feels like I'm being yelled at.
Yeah, if I was yelling at my girl like that, I'd feel
Are
terrible.
you keeping something from me? Like
my
whole body just like went in reserve, and this isn't even about me. That's just how he's talking.
And that's why she doesn't want to let him know, because she knows whatever he's going to do, he's going to get in my world. He's going to just totally disrupt my peace. He's going to like just make me feel frightened. And this is why she didn't tell him.
Yeah, if I did that to my wife, I'd have to look out for a frying pan headed towards me like a roundhouse really quickly. I mean, you don't fuck with an Irish or Italian girl and expect nothing to come from it.
No.
Do that, and I didn't sleep over it.
How could we be married?
I
20
knocked
years.
over your whole console. I felt terrible.
Are there things I don't know about you that are like major things in your life?
I don't think so.
What are you asking your wife of 20 years? Like
on the air?
Right.
Yeah.
And not married 20 years, but I know what you mean, Bob. We're with her 20 years, over 20 years. We know that. And this is where they do it. And it really is with a clip like this, and I'll play out, guys. It really is. This is where it does get fascinating darkly. And like almost in you put a bug, like a parabolic mic in somebody's home. But it's him on the air. It's not actually us eavesdropping, but it feels like it.
Yeah.
And there's no way this is set up. There's no way this is set up. Well, it is set up for him to confront her, but it's not set up in a way that, it's scripted. They're going to argue. No way. Sam?
it's also too like he thinks he's doing this thing where he's like promoting some sort of, I guess home life. This is going to be part of the aspect of the show. It's going to put Beth out there. It's going to make me seem like some, homebody, Dick Van Dyke-esque sort of, person. That's what he really thinks. That's how it's going to be coming off. But it comes off as scary. And it also, the person you're with, and this goes for any of our listeners in life, if you're with the person you love and you know that, this would never happen. You would never look at somebody 20 years later and say, do you do this? Do you not tell me things that are important?
Major things
like
from me?
Major things. I mean, I can't.
It's Hampton's Gothic.
It's fucking so pathetically sad.
It is, really.
Yeah. And you realize they don't interact. Again, with Howard, when it's on the air, this is where people can kind of air stuff out with them.
Right.
They don't interact. That's why she's bringing it up now, because she knows this is a safe zone.
Well, there's a clip I didn't play, and I'm not going to bring it up, but it's from 1999, and Tom Chiusano goes in and says, "You're difficult." And he's like complaining and bitching the whole time, going, "What do you mean difficult? I'm just, standing up for the, the quality control of the show and blah, blah, this." And they're all going in saying, eventually they all feel the strength, just like in the Ablo clip. Gary comes in and said, "Look, with some advertisers, you can be a real pain in the ass, and you won't stick around. And we have to get you." This is why Gary has to get him while the show's going on in a break time, because he won't meet off the air. He doesn't want to. He doesn't want to have to do anything, including confront people, including talk about real things. Sam,
doesn't this feel like, instead of talking to your wife, this feels like an HR meeting where you're literally being pulled into HR and you're like, do you want to talk about this issue happened?
I wouldn't think they were married.
This seems like some sort of corporate HR interview. Right. It's fucking whack.
Because that would upset me. I mean, there are things I don't tell you.
Are you mad I didn't tell you about that?
No,
but oh my God.
But I love you. I mean, you could.
Imagine you went on the air and nothing worked.
But I mean, what are you, afraid of me or something?
I'm wondering though, would I have admitted me? And I'm having a hard time with that. I don't know that I would have.
He just said,
"Oh
there
my
are things."
God.
It's buried under sound, but he said, and we didn't cover it up. They were kind of going back and forth. But if you just listen really carefully, you heard it. He said, "There are things I don't tell you." Of course, there are things you don't tell him. Like, I'm gay. So, well, she knows that, I'm sure. But I could see Sam. You guys can't see it, and one day we'll do a visual thing of this. It'll be like a webcam on Sam reactions. She visibly is like taken back, like it's uncomfortable. I can tell Sam's really uncomfortable just listening to this.
How can you tell?
That's a threat. That's not him saying there's things that he's threatening her.
That's correct.
But it was also things going on with me that I'm not telling you. Like maybe I'm thinking about seeing other, throwing you out.
Gaslighting her. He's gaslighting her.
She knows everything about him. He's in 2 different rooms for his entire fucking life. Like she knows everything there is to know about him. He does nothing.
Right.
And notice he said that when she said, "I wonder," so she's getting slightly like she's glitching, like the Stepford wife thing is glitching, and she's saying, "I wonder what would happen if," and so she's kind of getting slightly introspective. And how does he knock it down? "Well, I have things I don't tell you." Boom, zap, right back to your fucking Stepford wife.
And keep in mind, guys, this is with Jimmy Kimmel on the line listening.
Oh, really?
And this is, I'm pretty sure. I'm not 100% because I didn't review the clips fully, but I'm pretty, because I know pretty much. I clipped them. I don't keep them for no reason. But imagine like how discomfort Jimmy must be feeling, or he's got a box of popcorn going, action.
There's nothing worse than going over to your friend's house after they just got in a fight and they don't want to tell you that it happened. But everything's like super still, and you're like, "Is everything okay?" Yeah, everything's okay.
Well, yeah, yesterday I stepped out, for example, because my wife was just going nuts. So, and it was one of those things that I can't take anything for this. I can't give her anything for this. I know I have to just sort of like, weather the storm. And then when I had a buddy come over, like one of our mutual friends, to say, yeah, you guys enjoy your coffee, whatever. I'll be back. I'll be back in a day or two. I felt like saying, but it was, I went out for a few hours. She was fine later, but I'm like, I got to get out of the line of fire. Otherwise, this is not going to be, at one point, I'll turn into my old man and go, kamuti Christos panagya, and I'll just say, fuck it.
At least you get to yell in a foreign language.
Oh, God, a couple. Tabernak.
But honey, you were doing me the ultimate favor.
Yeah, but what if your millions of listeners did not hear you? They weren't able to listen.
They're not hearing.
They don't exist. Just like the Coxman story, it doesn't exist either.
I've told you that it was because of me.
Yes,
I'm struggling with that. I don't know that I would confess that.
But why would you not confess that? Because you were down here doing something for me that I appreciate so much.
Yeah, but I knocked over equipment.
Yeah. But
anyway,
you knocked over.
Good, I'm released. Let's never talk about that again.
All right.
Oh my God, she is a child. She's a child.
Worse than a
She's
child.
a child, and he's an abusive parent.
Yeah.
What worse? But it's worse because he didn't even have this kind of interaction with his own kids. He left it for Allison to parent the kids. He really would be better served having an assistant in there with her all the time if she doesn't already. And you deal with, why don't you deal with my agent, Don? Can you talk to my wife for me?
Wait a minute. So this just came to me, Bob. Would Beth be the test of what Howard would be like as a parent if he had a full-time, child with him? If he had, say, one of his children with him full time, this to me sounds like how it ends up, because sounds like a child. This is how it probably would have ended up.
Yeah, I mean, they get the same means it just manifests in different ways. Like, they need to be emotionally abusive. They need to be admired. They're going to get that from, it sort of winds up being the same setup with multiple people.
Whether it's wife or daughter or son, or grandfather or mother, the relationship is the same, in other words?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if he were to have been a present parent, let's say, this is how it would have ended up with his kids. So thank God he had nothing to do with them, almost.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because they're financially dependent on him. Beth is financially dependent.
Yeah.
But she has to deal with
he lets her know that.
But she's not blood. And I don't know that makes a difference in his world. But either way, if there's a contract, there's no contract with your kids. They are physically your children.
Yeah.
I think.
But in a lot of ways, though, I mean, you guys don't have kids, but so I can't. But when you have a child, it is like not the same as your partner, but you love them. You want the same things for both people. You want them to be happy emotionally. You want them to be okay, successful, stable.
Mm-hmm.
You want to put the best energy you can into both people.
Yeah,
I don't see that from Howard. I see complete fear mongering.
They take and they abuse and they exploit, and that's how they view people.
Sam,
that's why I believe he's so fascinated by, people that he perceives, especially men that he perceives as really good looking, because I think he fantasizes that just because of your looks, like people just become entranced by you and you're able to use them. It's almost like somebody who looks at a cult leader and is like, oh man, that's awesome. Like, those people worship him. He can take whatever he wants. I think he sort of views like celebrity men that way, where he's like, oh, you're so beautiful. Like, people just submit to you, right? And a lot of the guys are like, no. Like women
I wouldn't
just do whatever.
That.
Because he would just take such advantage of that.
Completely.
And he would love to have that power. Right now he uses his money to do that. But I think he would like other means.
Sam, real quick, I got a question for you, okay? And this is a strictly like binary thing. You've got 3 hours at hand, and you've got truth serum in either one of them. You can choose one to interview. Who do you choose, Allison or Emily?
Allison.
Yeah, hands down.
100%.
Not even, okay.
Just because I as a mom, I wanna know, because you know what it's like to be a mother, and I also know what it's like to be a single mother and then have another partner, and I want to know what that journey was like for her. I just think it would be more introspective. Plus, I think she's smarter than her kids.
Oh, she probably is, absolutely. But I would love the kids' perspective so much because
I would like that, but I want Allison's more.
Okay, fair enough. I think I would go Emily just because the kid's perception changes and evolves over time. The wife as well, obviously Allison's would as well, but she's always she's an adult when they meet. The kid's changing and they're growing older, and their perceptions change gradually. And then when it does happen, you can't unsee these things, the same as an adult. And that's when you start actually, I believe that these things intrinsically become part of your life. Allison, I'm sure, is absolutely fine with everything that's gone on now. I don't think the kids really will ever get over being neglected by a fucking dad.
And I want to say something real quick, because recently you guys were doing that Robert Plant interview. That by the way, is just
the best episode ever. I know.
Oh my God, that was. But anyways, there's two things I always noticed. There's two things I noticed with Howard. He always talked about that one Led Zeppelin concert.
Yeah,
and I realized that's the only concert he ever went to. That's why that's all he talks about is that one.
There's the Metallica one where he and Ralph are wearing that Golden Girls tunic.
Well, yeah, I'm talking about when he was, a civilian. I know he's been to a bunch of these things he doesn't fucking care about, but the other thing is too, he always talks about, I did this shit XYZ with my kids. I took my kids to karate. I took my kid to karate. And I realized he always brought up this one incident that he took one of his kids to karate. And I realized that's the only time he ever did anything with them.
Right.
Like, was the one time when they were really young, he took them to one of them to karate once. And like, that just shows the complete deficit of time that he spent with them.
That still makes me laugh, that clip with the word I used to probably put it in intro when he goes, I spent a lot of time with my kids when I needed to.
Yeah.
Right. You also realize his absence of a parent too, when things happen, like you need doctor's appointments, dentist appointments, you need new shoes, you need uniforms, you need braces, all this stuff. The parent that has no idea how that happens, but it just happens, probably isn't, the most there.
Right.
And Howard just he just thinks it's like raising a kid is like, he should be thanked for showing up for these little piddly things because I'm a celebrity or I'm this or I'm that. Meanwhile, there's an entire life that you schedule till they're, I don't know, however old. I mean, forever, pretty much, it seems like in the beginning, until they're an adult.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And he has no interest in figuring out or wondering how all that happens. All these kids are healthy, have straight teeth, he has no interest in figuring out any of that. None.
They're dating men successfully. The other one, the other thing,
they're singing by a river, Jewish hymns with leaves falling on them and fucking rocking back and forth. Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody YouTube Emily Stern on YouTube.
Yeah, we don't go after the kids, guys, but when they put themselves out there every now and then, you gotta give them a little bit of, get a little piss with the sugar.
Never happened.
Right.
Okay.
That's so ridiculous that you wouldn't tell me. I would never be mad at you.
I just didn't. I
you were down here cleaning.
Enough. Yeah, but I wasn't being careful enough.
Oh,
that sounds like someone
who gets hit.
Yes, master. Thank you, sir. Can I have another?
I wasn't careful. He likes the towels just so.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what she reminds me of? Howard reminds me of, you know, in The Sound of Music, Baroness von Schrader, the guy that Captain Von Trapp was going to marry, and she's like, look, the girl Von Trapp was going to marry.
Okay.
He was going to marry that Von Schrader woman, Baroness von Schrader, whatever.
That's right.
And she's looking at Julie Andrew, and everything she does, she's just in.
It's disdain.
She's just she's just watching her and waiting for her to fuck up, and just, you know, just detailing everything she's doing wrong and honing in on her. And Beth feels that way. She feels that heat on her.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And that is the way she just explained that was as if to say, I've gone against the edict. I've gone. I know I fucked up, and now I have to address the fact that I fucked up. Otherwise, it's even worse.
Stop it. Careful.
Kelly's like, you have to tell him. Call Gary.
No, you did not call Gary. Gary will tell you to forget it.
I'm sweating, telling you.
Oh, I think she's making reference. I think she's referencing her assistant, who probably said like, who she's admitting told her, oh, you gotta tell him, otherwise it's just gonna get worse because he's gonna know it was you.
Climb every mountain.
I'm thinking Soul Asylum's misery song.
Oh my God, I love you. I mean, thank you for doing that. Thank you for.
That sounded authentic.
She couldn't get out of there quick enough. Yeah, I love you, whatever.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that thank you was like a thank you note you get from, like, you know, a lawn mowing company that's first starting, that you say yes to agreeing to a year of grass mowing. Thanks for sticking with us.
Thanks for the petunias.
What is that? What just happened?
I think that is a reaction to how you get.
Hey, honey, you still here? Can I say something?
When you're upset about the equipment not working.
You know, I want to make a statement. I mean, Beth just sounded like a hostage or something.
Yes, she did. She did. She fucking did.
Read this. Mom and Dad, I'm fine. Please send gold.
Yeah, it sounds like the fucking note from Big. Tom Hanks.
Wow.
He sends his mom. I'm fine.
Great reference.
Let me make a statement. Beth authentically sounded like I'm holding her here against her will. So let's revisit
Robin
this.
Understands this, though. See how she's on Beth's side, because she tortures her fucking assistants, unpaid or paid or whatever the fuck, interns, for years. Robin has done this to people.
But this is like kind of the dance that people do that work with someone with MPD or someone's. Man, you get a certain way, you know, like they try to tell you, like, they can't come right out and say it to you, but she's like saying, like, Howard, you get away, like you're rough with certain stuff like this. Like she wasn't at all like, oh yeah, what happened or whatever. She already knows. She knows how Howard is.
I was gonna say, I feel bad for her. I want to know if we need to send in a rescue team.
I think well, I'm glad you said that, because, sweetheart, explain to people that all of our friends, what do I look like?
You need to look good for Jane.
Oh, Jane Fonda, yes.
You have cat hair on you. The moosh.
I do think Jane Fonda likes me. But anyway, do you explain?
Okay, guys, just a little break, and we'll start that one again.
Explain to people, what's the matter? You seem like you're...
No, it's hard for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. But you know what? It seems like...
I'm actually mad at myself that I didn't tell you.
Of course. Who cares?
Yeah, no, I'm struggling.
Knock this whole fucking thing off. I'll get the day off if you have. I'm not looking to sit down here. I wish I could go upstairs and paint a picture.
You're painting a picture right now.
Oh, yeah. We're getting a vivid one.
This is like an Augustin Delacroix.
Send in a rescue team. That'd be some fight they'd have to deal with. Howard.
Yeah.
Just push him over.
Yeah.
Explain to people how our friends think that I'm holding you hostage.
Should I blink twice, Robin?
Yeah,
Yes,
twice.
yes.
If I'm like, you gotta
Give me
hear
a
this.
signal.
You guys gotta hear this. So we have friends, and they invite us to things, and
I don't believe that either. You don't have friends. They don't invite you. You invite
I actually
yourself.
I think they might invite him. I just think maybe I think they might invite him for, let's see what this will be like again. Like more of a show.
Just
like a sideshow.
It's like country club, the elites have it. They're not really friends, but they'll get together, and
right. As soon as their income falls down below a certain tax bracket, they're no friends anymore. I mean,
Exactly.
where's Mark Consuelos and Kelly Ripa?
we, Beth will say to them, look, we're not coming to your house. We're afraid of COVID-19. We don't want to get it. And
wow, a year later.
Because all the cats are contagious.
Exactly.
we're being very careful. And the friends all say to Beth, Howard won't let you go out. Is Howard letting you go out yet? like I'm like in charge here.
Well, you are in charge, and they know you. They all know what you're like. Every single one of them. That's why you're getting that.
I really hate how he's like, I'm like in charge here. Who else is Walter? Fucking
Leon.
Helen Rose.
Helen Rose.
They just project and tell on themselves. So it's just the opposite. I'm not in charge. I'm not when they say that, it's the exact opposite thing of what they're saying. And for me, if there's neighbors and people in their social circles that are kind of levying these concepts that he's controlling, I mean, clearly they've seen something. And like, that's not something you casually say to somebody. Like, it's a bad characterization of somebody.
I just realized he's like John Gotti when the interviewer asks, "Are you the head of the Gambino family?" He goes, "I'm the part of the Gotti family. My wife Vicky's the boss." And so I think we played enough of that one. So I want to go into this one here, which is Pampered Baby Edit.
I was out celebrating last night my victory in the psychiatric examination.
This is, by the way, guys, from 2011, the day after this chick came on and claimed she was a doctor, and they did some bullshit psych test where she gave numbers that didn't make sense, like 74 and 93 or something like that, the level of psychopathy, I suppose. I have no idea. And as it turned out, Ronnie was, of course, the most disturbed, which was complete bullshit. And then, but again, it was one of those things where he's lording something over Robin, but it really mirrors the Drubinski thing. But she's going to drop some bombs on him now.
By the way,
I've forgotten about it.
You were so mean. Robin was interviewed in the halls. Even the listeners were saying that you were
crazy.
You were mean about me.
You do. I figured the whole thing out. I'm like, all right, these tests are skewed toward people in therapy.
Years later, it's proven he admitted he lied on his fucking exams. And of course he did. He lied about the narcissism test. Sam.
Wouldn't it be like, okay, it's like a job application and interview. When somebody asks you, what are your biggest weaknesses? You wouldn't say, I'm hungover a lot on Mondays and Fridays. And sometimes I sleep past my alarm. You don't say that. You say, I think I pay too much attention to detail. I really, sometimes I like to work too much. You know what I mean? Like, it's just stuff like that. So it's like turning negatives into positives. You obviously know what to do in those situations unless you're a complete dolt.
Right.
Basically,
I work too hard.
That, yes, of course. So I think that he treats those psychiatry tests the exact same way.
Of course. It doesn't take a genius to pick the number that you think is going to give you the lowest score or highest as need be based on the situation. And what she's going to bust him on in this clip is not being a present parent and not actually being useless, being a completely useless piece of shit.
So you figured it out. Listen to this. Listen to Robin in the hall.
You do fine in these tests.
All right. Listen to Robin screaming in the hallways after the psychiatric exam
I was
yesterday.
ranting.
Robin, you seem the most upset by the fact that
I'm
Howard
not
finished
upset.
first, though. That it was
I
skewed.
don't believe that result. I'm sorry.
You're such a sore loser.
No, you know what? Everybody I talked to yesterday agreed with me.
Of course. You bet they better.
Out a number of things to you. The man can't function by himself.
Okay, so she's gonna go into this, guys, and I'm gonna try not to play too much of it. Yeah, which I love when two narcissists fucking square off.
He has an army of people.
You don't have an army of people?
I don't have your army.
Well, okay.
Your army would squash my army.
Yeah, my army.
It's like the United States versus Saudi Arabia.
Right. Why do we have our armies go up against each other? See who crushes who.
So he can go to therapy 3 times a week.
Right.
That is not normal. And he's still spiking.
Oh my God.
Don't you love it?
I love it because she's so mad. This is the truth.
Because she knows. Yeah, she knows.
I've edited it, guys, so it's going to sound a little choppy, but because there's a bunch of shit about Fred that I didn't want in there.
It's like 3 times a week in an army full of people and you can't get within the normal range? Forget it.
Hey, you were really bad-mouthing me.
You're not normal.
I didn't say I was normal. I'm just more normal than you. Way more normal.
I mean, I really wouldn't want to be normal. But the point is, he's trying to act as if he's okay. Do you see his
I never say I'm okay. I just said I'm way less loony than you.
life? Can he do anything for himself?
When would you hear this today?
I just wonder if what set her off so much was because he's just been shitty to her. And just she sees how shitty he is to other people, and it's like he's kind of gaslighting everyone and getting away with it. And she, because she works for him, she can't come out and say it, so she's just trying to point out, like, look, you can't think this guy is normal. Like, things don't add up here. Like, I think that's why she's so upset here, not because of her score, but like he's getting away with something is what's making her upset.
Right. Ronnie's not him.
I agree. I think it's one hand washes the other. That's how a lot of this celebrity culture goes. I'm not going to tell what a piece of shit you are. You're not going to say what a piece of shit I am. And we're going to slap hands and it's going to be great. We're never going to talk about what pieces of shit we are. And Howard, during these exams, when he answers them not honestly and then chooses to spotlight Robin's, narcissism, it infuriates her because she knows what's happening. And it's like, dude,
she knows him.
We
and it's hard
have each other's backs. I have your back. I fucking had your back for everything. The Selena thing, the Rodney King thing, the Artie thing, everything.
Yep.
And you're going to fucking do this?
It's so hard to really explain covert narcissistic abuse. I mean, we've gone over so many shows, and I feel like, we're all still learning and like seeing, certain aspects of dynamics and relationships, but it's such a subtle thing. It'd be really hard for her to probably come out and explain it. All you can really look at is just, look, this guy isn't normal. He has a lot of behavior. And I've said this about people that I know personally, where I've never really levied a claim like that, like a personality disorder. But what I always tell people is just look at their lifestyle. Like, the proof is in the pudding. You can give your account as much as you want, but if there's somebody who has a personality defect or they're doing something abusive, the proof is going to be in the pudding. There's just they're going to be isolated. They're not going to be able to sustain relationships. They're not going to be where they should be in their career. Different stuff like that. And what she's trying to like point out is like how he's incapable of taking care of himself. And somebody who knows about covert NPD or who knows about these kind of behavior patterns, like, that's a huge red flag.
Totally.
That's anybody that's even halfway well versed is going to look at that and know we have someone that probably has a high level of narcissism. So I think I just don't think it's translating that well because people aren't as nuanced to his behavior where he's presenting it in a very simple way.
Mm-hmm.
The solution should be get a bulldog and, throw him in the pool. See what happens.
Yeah. I mean, these stories are so strange. Even knowing what I know about him, and you hear these things with the bulldog and locking his kids out of the limo when he thought he heard a gun. I mean, even for me, hearing that shit is just fucking crazy. You're like amazed. Like
he didn't even think he heard a gun. He didn't even think he heard a gun. They literally called his name out. Someone called his name out, and he ran into the limo and locked his kids and his coworkers out.
And those are kept under lock and key. Like imagine some of the real stories and stuff
he was ready to drive away, like the FBI was spying on him at a funeral or something. Like, let's get out of here before we're gonna get arrested.
Yeah, peel rubber.
What is it? Yes, I can do things for myself. Why are you saying that?
Do you have an ATM card? This is
No,
what I'm going to say.
I have because I screwed my account.
The most basic thing demonstrating that you're capable of anything as an adult.
Oh, please.
Yeah.
My cash.
They had to do that because you couldn't be with an ATM
I called them up and said, here's what I want to do. And quite frankly, it is weird for me.
You've never had an ATM card.
It's weird for me to go to the ATM machine.
Yeah, the machines bother you.
No, listen, before I was famous, I did everything. I went out, I went food shopping, got my fast food,
He just said, before I got famous, I did everything.
What does fame have to do, by the way, with any of that?
What he's saying is when I couldn't pay for someone to do this shit for me, I had to do some of it myself. But that means, which of course everybody at one point.
And then fast food. So he stopped buying food and couldn't handle that.
He couldn't cook. Go ahead, Sam.
But how do you forget how to use an ATM card? Isn't that like, driving a car or riding a bike?
Well, he doesn't do either of those anymore.
These people, it's so hard to convey this. Nothing these people do is normal.
Yeah.
Nothing. They don't eat normal. They're not on normal sleep schedules. They don't have nothing they do. They can't do essential basic things like that. They cannot do it. It's too much.
See, I feel like when you say that, it's exaggerating, but it's not because I even see how he walks. And it's like, you don't even walk and move like a normal person.
He doesn't walk,
you don't walk
dress,
and move
talk,
and
eat,
react like a normal person in a conversation. When you're having a one-on-one with somebody on an interview, even in the most, prepped sense, he seems so animated in a way that's false, like a puppet.
Right.
It just seems wrong and false and disingenuous. So I just don't, these normal behaviors, like going to the ATM.
Yeah. Like he doesn't also, you can hear
there's no muscle memory to normal things.
No, you can hear the detachment in his voice when he asks certain questions. And you can hear, as Bob said earlier in this show, how he works his pud into a fucking lather over certain revenge fetishes or themes. Like, did you ever get back at your fucking teacher for giving you an F? Fuck him, man. Fuck him. Rage Against the Machine, man. And it's like he gets animated over certain things. And then other things are just, it's like dandruff. It doesn't mean anything to him. And he's just asking it out of, I got to ask this just to make it seem like I'm normal or whatever. So we'll continue because Robin really fucking gets him with some rabbit punches.
Regular food. I went to the ATM. I went to the bank.
You're like a king. You don't even carry money.
I have money on me right now. Enough to bet you on the psychiatric exam and take your money.
You don't know how to use it.
Of course I use it.
You have money. They give you money for
I think
betting.
I tip my limo driver.
He tips his limo driver. If you put a gun to Ronnie's head, he'll tell you, I haven't gotten a tip from him in 25 years.
They give you money?
Yeah, what did she say there? They give you money for what?
Basically, he gets paid cash. Like he gets money from, if he needs money, which he never does, they hand him a wad of cash because he can't.
Yeah, it's like he's a kid. She's like, they give you money to play grown-up man. Like,
I mean, I know there's people, I don't know how you guys are, but like the person I'm with he carries tons of cash on him. He likes cash.
Yeah, I'm the same. I use it. Here's the thing. I have a wad with me. I haven't had a wallet since I was 16. I carry a wad, and I carry like a credit card or like
in case.
Wallet. Sorry, one sec. My alarm just went off. I carry a card. No, but I like to use it for certain things to get points on. But I've always got cash on me, so there's always an option. Whatever. And sometimes I want to pay in cash, and sometimes I want to pay credit just to keep the thing, constantly being used, so I get some kind of credit rating. But
how is it that he's getting cash like an allowance?
Well, he'd need an ATM tutor. He'd need someone to tell him what his fucking password is when he went into an ATM.
She's like seriously painting a picture of someone that like I don't even know if he can walk, like someone just carries him out. They just pick his chair up and just coast him out of there. Like what did she say though, where she's like, they give you the money to use for whatever. Like,
okay, I'll play it back and you just see if you guys can hear it.
The food. I went to the ATM. I went to the bank.
You're like a king. You don't even carry money.
I have money on me right now. Enough to bet you on the psychiatric exam and take your money from you.
You don't use it. That's the only time you have money. They give you money for betting.
I think I tipped my limo driver.
It was kind of inaudible. They give you money for something.
Betting.
Something. Or
she's just saying basically bullshit, whatever.
Yeah.
Like you don't use it like a normal person.
No, fuck no. He's not going to a watermelon truck and buying a watermelon or something with a few bucks.
Basically, the point is he doesn't even take out his own cash. Somebody gives him a cash allowance, like saying,
"That's right.
Here's some cash," and he's so helpless.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta have.
You better have cash.
That's right. No, but
you can't find your way home from here.
Oh, that's true. I can't argue with that. But listen, I have admitted to you on the air. You see, this is the difference between you and me.
Oh,
the reason you know this about me is because
you have a brain and you can find your way home. I mean, seriously, how many bike rides have any of you taken as children and just were like, whatever, we're just going wherever, and you found your way home?
Yeah,
without cell phones or GPS.
Yeah, pre-GPS.
This idiot can't find his way home after living somewhere for 20 years.
That he goes to 5 days a week.
Oh.
Well, I mean, now it's academic, but at that point, yeah.
Work on with my psychiatrist, and one of the things is that I want to be more independent and do more things for myself.
I don't know this about you because of that. I know this about you because I know you.
No.
I work on my psychiatry. Wait.
This is back to the 5 days a week bullshit.
If somebody was with their therapist and they said, I want to learn how to get home.
Yeah, what is he working on here? I don't...
He lives 5 minutes away. It's straight down a street.
Yeah, pretty much.
You maybe have to make a right at some point.
I think Manhattan's on a grid system, so it's easier.
It is
to get back.
So easy.
Are the street signs in Braille or something?
And you knew me before I was, really famous and stuff. And my kids were young, and I did everything. I drove those kids. I took them everywhere. I went walking to the park with them. I had to sit there with the stroller and do this.
You
and that.
Want to be?
I had to sit there. I had to sit
there with the stroller. First of all, fuck stick. You push a stroller. You don't sit there with it.
Well, he was in the stroller.
You might if you're at a park on a bench and the kids just
right. Yeah. Say you were watching, I don't know, Emily's soccer game, and Deborah was in a stroller, and you had to sit there and watch the game. God forbid.
No, I think he's saying he was in the stroller.
It's happening. It's going to happen in the next year or two. Did you see him walk off the Ellen stage?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Slinked off, yeah.
Yeah.
Slinked.
It was like he had one of those walkers. I think we've done a bunch of Photoshops. We're going to get a couple more out there.
His leg, it looked like, when you take a reed from a pond and you snap it? That's what his leg is. His
like
leg
a sprig
looks
of
like
mistletoe.
A fucking bamboo rig. Like a bamboo stick. It's just like, oh, is this going to bend? Oh, no, it's going to break.
He really is like cherry tomatoes and toothpicks. That body of his. That's all. Like he's just one of those little characters, little kids make in art class.
Honest about this whole thing?
Yeah, I do.
What would happen if your wife had to leave for a few days?
What? What would happen?
Did you stay with the kids by yourself?
Well, we had help.
No, you didn't just have help.
Of course I had to work.
Oh, stop it. If
Well,
it
what are
was
you
a
acting like I don't have a job?
If it was a weekend,
Yeah.
would
Who
you
would
stay
say?
by yourself with the kids?
Never. I would be with the kids, but I had help.
You had who did they bring in?
This is my favorite.
You. Didn't we? Did we bring you in, actually?
I actually said, if I'm so crazy, why'd you leave me with your
I don't
kids?
know. I must have been nuts. Lucky those kids turned out.
That's how cheap. That's how cheap he was. That's how desperate Robin was.
Yeah, well, she did owe them money. That might have been during that time.
But here's my point. I have admitted to you on the air that the things that I work on.
He couldn't be alone. He wasn't capable of taking care of himself and the kids by himself.
Liar. Oh,
No.
I'm not capable of taking kids by myself. You're right.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. They were your kids. You lived in the house.
And
you still couldn't.
Where are your kids?
Okay, so this is the perfect sort of sidewinding NPD arguing tactic. Like, bring it on to her. Bring it on to her. Don't make it about me. Make it about her because this is negative. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
Where are your kids?
Bob, if you have a child in a circumstance that's scary, like God forbid, and you have to, do whatever you have to do to make sure, I don't know, they're safe or something, fine. How scary is it if they know themselves that they can't handle it and they have to have someone there? I mean, that to me is absolutely mind-blowing. Like that alone, that admission that you don't even trust yourself. Nobody's court ordering this. Nobody's saying you are unable to do this. You are yourself saying, I can't be a parent. I can't watch my own children, to yourself. That's fucking insane.
Mm-hmm.
That's extreme neglect. I mean, the thing that bothers me too is he brings this up almost like it's some normalcy. Yeah, I wasn't a good father. I had to go and I had to learn. Like a lot of people go through that. Like I didn't know we had to hire someone even though I was in the same room. People have to learn how to. It's like, no, people don't really have to learn that they need to care about their kids. That's not a normal thing.
or that it's not about you.
Yeah.
It's always an after, like if you start becoming a neglectful parent or you start parenting, I don't know, haphazardly or not well, and whatever the circumstances are, normally it's something like it's a punishment.
Yeah.
And you have to be forced not to watch your own children because of something you did to your behavior made it so.
Yeah.
This is the complete opposite. This is the complete opposite.
I guarantee that person that they brought in was there to watch Howard too. And I'm not even saying that jokingly. Like, Howard is the fourth child. They have 3 kids, right? The 3 girls.
Daughters, yeah.
He was the 4th child. And I've always noticed this thing where he brings up when he'll be like trashing Richard or Sal, be like, it's like they have another kid there when he's describing them. And it's like, Allison used to say that to you, didn't she?
Yeah.
Like that used to come up. That's where you got that from. They probably got that caretaker or whoever was there. Probably 90% of it was to take care of Howard. Probably even more so than the kids, honestly.
Yep. And here's a clip to give you. Here's an extra clip bit to support it. 2020 11/11.
For me, being famous, the best part of it has been that I almost do nothing for myself.
Okay, there you go. Do you need any more? The next clip, guys, is an oldie but a goodie, and I didn't realize exactly how good it was because I only had heard small clips of it at the time. Wiggy busts on Bowie for blocking him on Facebook, and this is from 2015, and it's a day after he was bitching and moaning and complaining how he was knocking Gary for being with the Mets with his son and just being a good father. And I'm not joking, so you hear some of it.
Just from a business standpoint, what Bobo's referring to is that, so there's a wrap-up show going on, And Gary's, let me see if I can play it for you.
Wait a minute. So he says, so Bobo's referring to. So he had a planned setup where Bobo calls in and refers to this so he can harp on it.
That's right. Bobo brought it up.
Because he's so brave. He's so brave.
Yep.
Rather than me tell you about it.
Okay.
Here he is. So listen to this. I had no idea he did this, but he announced it on the wrap-up show.
I'm going to get so much shit for what I'm about to tell you. I wanted to put up the Mets picture, and I didn't want to deal with the bullshit. So before I put it up...
Oh, wait. The Mets picture is you in the green room with 4 of the Mets at Kimmel.
Right. So before I put the picture up...
Okay, here we go.
I unfriended Howard.
You did?
I did.
Oh, no way.
I did. I was like, you know what? This is my sort of private space. I just sort of need to be able to put stuff up. Like, in other words, if it were Twitter, then, okay, Twitter's open. If it's Instagram, I just want my little area where I'm not getting bugged.
Did you unfriend
Rob? Did he just say huge fag?
No.
Did you hear that? Wait, go back. Just for
10 seconds.
Yeah.
Private space. I just sort of need to be able to put stuff up. Like, in other words, if it were Twitter,
douchebag.
Then okay, Twitter's.
Oh, okay. Douchebag.
Area where I'm not getting bugged.
Did you unfriend Robin?
His little area.
No.
He didn't unfriend you.
I didn't even think of that. I thought about unfriending Beth.
Stupid.
But Beth won't show stuff to Howard unless it's really bad. So yeah, I did it. I apologize.
Nobody cares about it.
Okay, so he's gonna. This is 2015, guys. Post Summit, I don't know, the Wendy Williams rant and all this stuff, and he's post fuck Facebook, hates social media, but is pissed off because his producer is depriving him of a way to fuck with him.
And he just said too, by the way, Beth does the same thing, like goes through the same motions as Gary does before something gets really bad. Should I say something? Should I not say something? Right. So they're both going through this posting anxiety before they do it.
Mm-hmm. But he was saying that if he posts something that might be construed as, I don't know, mockable, Beth won't show Howard because she knows, like, she doesn't want to get Gary in shit. But either way, she herself might have the same issues with her own Instagram. I don't think he has one. Wiggy doesn't have an Instagram, does he?
No, but meanwhile, Beth posts the most embarrassing shit of Howard, like brushing a cat in the Helen Rose t-shirt, doing the most embarrassing shit.
Wig shots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bob?
So you just prepare.
As a Stern fan, I mean, you do know, like, that's just blockbuster news. What you just...
I unfriended him, but it doesn't mean I don't want to be friends with him. I want to be left alone in my Facebook.
First of all, one time I commented on what Gary put up on his Facebook.
He just
that was a big
when
turnaround.
Do I ever? That was in record time.
Oh my God. That was like a Buffy the Vampire break your neck snap. You know what I mean? Remember that joke? And she'd fucking just take a head and just crank it real quick. That's what that was. When do I have one time?
Yeah. even he couldn't make it last.
Number 2, I don't know how Facebook works. I don't know what the algorithm is for what they post on your homepage.
Uh-huh.
But everything Gary posts doesn't even end up on my news feed.
Sure.
Like, I don't know why. I mean, I'm friends with Gary on Facebook. So most times I forget that I'm friends with you because.
So he's got to devalue him, right, Bob? Already, like he's setting it up for You go ahead, Sam.
And two, if he's saying, I don't even see it on my news feed. So obviously he's engaged in social media and Facebook in some way. Like, let's just pretend this is true, that he is, and he doesn't see it. That means he's engaging with people on Facebook and searching for certain people's pages or posts that don't have anything to do with Gary. So most likely whatever he's searching for the most comes up in his newsfeed the most, because that's how the algorithms are fed. That's most things that you look up are the most things that are fed. Like, I guarantee you, if you search for something you're shopping for, you're going to find an ad for it on Facebook. Tons. That's just how it's it's how it works. Big brother. Right. Of course. So he probably doesn't even look for Gary. He's probably on Facebook, like a Grindr. Large amount of his time, and he's just doesn't even come up in his news because he's not looking at it.
That's right. So, but he's got to have people out there. And when you see something, you fucking tell me. And Bobo is going to be the excuse, but who knows who it was? If it was Bobo or someone else.
You don't post, and when you do, it doesn't always show up because Beth's Bianca Furry Friends is like so many in that I don't go on Facebook all that much. I've never really. I mean, big deal. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. I don't give a shit if you unfriend me, but from a business standpoint, I'm your boss. I'm the guy you work for. Not with, for, really, even though sometimes I'm gracious and I say, hey, we all work together, blah, blah, blah. But the bottom line is you work for me.
Right. It's so threatening.
The coded language.
Yeah, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
I mean, and then
all...
on top of that, you want to talk about having issues with abandonment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is like, he's fucking mad about this.
Yeah, totally.
They do not take it well at all on any level. And again, here we have this thing where whenever there's some kind of responsibility, hey, I'm not the boss. I don't call. Hey, I'm your boss. Even though I might pity fuck you every once in a while and say we all work together, you work for me.
Yeah.
And also, too, this goes to before this summit, not understanding how
this is
integral.
after the summit.
I thought you said 2011.
2015.
Oh, okay. So this is even more egregious. Okay,
Yes,
so it's
this
after.
This is way past fuck Facebook.
So you're talking about trying to understand the integral part of social media, branding, guests, and everything else, and the person who runs your show just befriended you. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it really is just on a whole level of bad for everyone.
Yep.
And I give you life, and I give
Understood.
you know what I mean? And like to unfriend me, I know I say I don't give a shit, but I got to admit, I was like, that fucking moron.
But it's so
like, why? Just it's moronic.
It is. It's so show related, not life related. It's just stupid shows. Like I don't.
But when
wanna...
do I ever goof? What did I say that was so terrible? I just said I thought it was funny.
Listen, I'm going to the World Series again with Jackson this week. I'm going to put up more pictures. I don't want to hear more shit.
But I was, you know what? You think about it. I'm the asshole.
There's Gary trying to gray rock, trying his best in that certain circumstance to gray rock him and basically say, you know, there's a boundary. I'm putting up a boundary. Don't you dare fucking put a boundary on me, asshole monkey boy. I pay you.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Put up a boundary.
I have to blame Gary on this one. Once you heard that summit meeting, you should have had a personal account and a professional account.
Yep.
You fucking idiot. Like, why wouldn't you make a separate show account as Gary Del Bate, producer of the Howard Stern Show, and Gary Del Bate, father and husband?
Well, Howard would want that. He would exploit that either way.
I mean,
he wouldn't even look at the Gary Show one. He would immediately go for the personal one.
But it would have been he should have done that immediately.
What he should have done is actually not even mention it on the wrap-up show, because either way, he's going to get shit about it. And he was stupid to be on the wrap-up show saying I blocked it. Fact is, if you block someone on Facebook, they don't see you, you don't see them. It literally is like you've removed them from existence, which is a good function in a way, because in real life, if you didn't like someone and you hated them and you didn't want to interact with them, you wouldn't call them up. You wouldn't see them socially unless it was by, chance. And either way, I feel for Bowie, but he is an idiot for having let this get out. But who knows if it would have gone out anyway.
Yeah, probably would have.
Yeah.
Sentimentality that you had with your son.
I don't want to hear
You
it.
did the nice thing with your son. I'm the jerk who can't deal it.
But you say that now, but you were so mean to me last week.
I was mean to you. So what? But you don't unfriend your boss.
It's stupid. Do you really care?
I think I do. And by the way,
that he needs his own space.
But he needs his own space on Facebook. On Facebook, a public fucking thing.
Hold on.
I want to tell you what a moron he is for 1 minute. I want to tell you why you're a moron.
My Facebook is not a public Facebook. It's just for some friends.
Can I tell you something?
Okay. And what he's going to go into it, but he got pissed off because they got all kinds of negative feedback. He got pissed on for shitting on Gary being a good father, and he couldn't handle it.
And by
so
the
he got
way,
shamed in public. Yeah.
Howard just resents the living shit out of Gary for being normal, for caring, for having interest in anything, vinyl, whatever the fuck, being a parent. Like it's almost reminds me of like when you're in high school and like your friend starts getting laid and you're like, kind of teasing the girl or teasing him about the girl, but you secretly want to be, getting laid or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like it's like giving somebody shit about something that they want. Like I've seen that with guys do that, especially with younger guys. Like it's like he does this to Gary. Like he just resents that he has a normal marriage. I don't know the intricate, just from my perspective, a somewhat normal marriage. He has a good relationship with his sons. It seems like he has genuine interest in sports and, in the vinyl and technology.
Right.
Like he cares about shit. Even when he was on that council, I was like, why the fuck do you give a shit about, like, the guy's he's just doing a normal thing. Yeah. And Howard just fucking hates that. Like because they long to be normal. They long to have interests. They long to have normal relationships with people, and they just don't.
I also think that Gary has also went through extreme hardships in his life. He had, mentally ill mother, which he's talked about, but he's overcome these circumstances in his life. He had a brother who had AIDS. He had, he had some things in his life that were hard to overcome, and he overcame them, it seems like, in a healthy manner, and has come out the other side of them maybe better. I think fame for a period of time was a drug for Gary that he unfortunately took, and probably took it too far.
Yeah.
And it became somewhat of a personality problem.
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of, leveled off. And in this space too, I also see in this, it's a conundrum of social media and life being real and not real. Like, is that reality or not reality? And it's what you choose to invest in, what you think is real. So Howard's choosing now at this point, when he said, fuck Facebook and fuck this and who cares, now he's choosing to put some, weight behind what that means. If you defriend me, if you dislike me on this forum. So then it's giving it gravity. It's putting weight on it. And that's also a problem in general of, if you want to put stock in your friendship in reality to Gary, then put it behind there. But if you're putting it in this gesture, I don't even know if that's, I don't know if that carries anything. Like, is that good? What does that even mean? Does that mean you care about him as a friend, or it cares more about how does it look?
How does it look?
A friend
and
a
that's
boss.
That's the whole point. He's upset that Gary publicly, even if it is just the wrap-up show, and they might have 6 listeners at that point in 2015, because it was still a Suck Howard's colon show, that he's rejecting Howard on some level. He's showing the world what he thinks of his boss by doing that and by saying that. And this is how little respect he has for him. And we all know Gary probably fucking hates Howard with a fucking red hot passion at this. He has to.
Yeah. It's they don't, again, I know I always come back to this abandonment concept, but I guarantee that's how Howard viewed that. And they just, everything for them comes down to abandonment. They abuse with abandonment. They threaten abandonment, or if they perceive abandonment.
And are pissed by it.
Yeah.
I gave you life.
I gave you
life.
Yeah, he's upset. Like,
Oh, yeah.
genuinely very, very, very. And again, we're coming back to this thing, grown men using social media and like getting upset over stuff.
Just listen to the rest of it, guys. It gets worse.
You want to hear why you're a moron?
Right.
I don't know what you did wrong, but yesterday I heard this clip. I went on my Facebook.
And there his stuff was, all right?
I'm completely on Gary's page. I'm not unfriended. I can see everything on there.
It said unfriend. Maybe I hit the wrong button.
Well, you hit the wrong button. So if you're going to...
Gary's probably public, so it doesn't matter if you're blocked. If you just get on Facebook, you could see some stuff publicly because you never changed the privacy settings.
Or he has a alternate Facebook name, or he's on Beth's page.
Yeah, that could be it too.
Remy, do it the fucking right way.
I guess we're still friends then.
He wouldn't even be meeting the Mets if it wasn't for me.
No,
he met the fucking Mets at Kimmel.
Who should get the picture first?
I mean, holy moly. Jack.
Yeah, Bob.
So what's the problem with him meeting the Mets? Why is it? What's there to bust on for that? Why is that weird?
Because he's getting a benefit, a tangible benefit that only came about because he's been on the show. And unlike when in Jackie's book, I had a bit of correspondence with Jackie asking him a little bit about salaries and whatnot. One of the parts of the book was when he, in the negotiations, he said, when I would travel from place to place, because Howard never traveled, but Jackie would, to do gigs around this country every now and then, or certainly along the East Coast, he said, I would stop by affiliates. I would stop by radio stations and talk to radio station managers. And they were so happy to have somebody, anybody, even if it was just Jackie, coming by and representing the show, because we don't get that contact. We don't get that communication. And Howard never saw that as, that's great, Jackie's getting the brand out there. He would have saw that as Jackie taking advantage of the show at the Cardozo Hotel or wherever the fuck, instead of, from the Howard Stern show, which is what he always should have seen it if he was a natural, normal thinking human being. He would have said, that's the brand awareness. That's great. You're spreading the word.
I'm just saying, even for an MPD, I don't get where you could even create a conflict in him meeting a Mets player. I don't find anything...
Because he's thinking to himself, you wouldn't have done this if it weren't for me, but you unfriended me. So you're posting something. No. Yeah,
I get
so
why he's upset now. I'm just saying,
right.
What was he busting on before? Because Gary says, I'm going to the Mets World Series again. So meaning that the first time
it's a benefit
he got
that he wouldn't have had if he would have never met Howard. He goes that far back. He's that resentful of the entire thing.
Like the Met, you can get a Mets ticket even if you don't work for Howard Stern. Like,
yeah. Well, it's the other thing is it's doubly because he's showing pictures of him and his boy, and that's also what's bothering him. It's really more like
he hates that.
He hates that. That's sentiment.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. I never got that. So what? Fuck Jackson and fuck you. Fuck you for showing me up for having a normal relationship with another human being. That's your son.
And you are completely right. When we interviewed Jackie and he was saying, these radio stations were so happy to have me because back then there was no social media. There was no internet. The only way to get yourself out there was to promote yourself on different radio stations, different forms of media, comedy shows. He did the grunt work to help expand the show and build likability with the audience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And Gary did the same thing. If you want more guests on, Gary hobnobbed with these people. And yes, did he get benefits from it? Of course. But he also did grunt work as well.
Yeah. You weren't out schmoozing, so somebody else did for your show, and you should be grateful for it, asshole.
The audience was laymen. They were regular people. We were regular middle-class people.
Right.
Yeah.
And to have guys like Artie go on the road and then talking with people and signing shit. You know how it's such a little thing to sign an autograph for someone, but it means so much to them after the fact. And it's just, he doesn't understand that because he poo-poos it because he's never cared about it. I think it just ties right into what you said, Bob. He has no interest in anything. So why would he want an autograph of that person? They're not more famous than me. Fuck Soupy Sales. Fuck Soupy Sales, who was an established star when he was at NBC. I resent the fact that he didn't have to work his way up. What the fuck are you talking about? You were still like learning what your dick was about when Soupy was in his prime. And then it made no sense. It just made no sense. All narcissism. Now we know that. Go ahead, Sam.
I just think too, what would you have done? These people, your audience that you have, if you didn't have these people that were going out there and networking for you and you shit on them the entire time.
He would have been Hampton's Howie way before the fact. Like people still, I mean, I'm sure in 1992, no one.
He wasn't making these appearances for people.
No, fuck. Well, I mean, he was
the book signings.
In a while they would, but the pay-per-views and stuff like that. But he would the book signings. That was an example. Yeah,
regular things.
Yeah, no, of course not. That was left to everybody else. Even Robin doing book signings as well. Bob,
you know what's kind of a good example of what I was talking about earlier when guys will bust on other guys like the way Howard does with Gary whenever he has an interest or does something with his kids. A good example of that, I was thinking about this time when Greg Fitzsimmons was trying to give Artie shit and Artie, I guess, showed up to an event, and he had a limo. He came in a limo,
Yeah,
and Greg's like, "Yeah, Mr. Jersey guy shows up in a limo. Like, what a." And it was like, yeah, I think you wish that you were a headliner and you came in a limo. You know what I mean? Like, it's the same it's that same kind of concept that I see him doing to Gary. Like, oh yeah, you're out at the battleship with your kid, or you care about, you're at the Mets game. Like,
You watch Bob, do you watch Stranger Things? It's like the one kid was hooking up with 7 and he's getting obviously some or doing something. And the one kid's still playing Dungeons and Dragons in his basement. And he's pissed because the kid wants to hang out with his girlfriend, not play Dungeons and Dragons. So he like throws the board across the room because he's like, you know, he doesn't understand. I'm getting pussy. You're playing this.
I love how Artie's reaction to that was like, what am I supposed to be upset that Fitzsimmons has to drive himself to gigs? Fuck him.
Yeah. That guy, I never liked that Fitzsimmons dude.
He's almost universally hated on my channel when I post about stuff. And
why?
Except for Robin. I don't understand it. I love his take on things. I don't think he's particularly.
A dick sometimes.
Yeah, it's because of his attitude. It's that
he's
Irish
just snarky. Yeah,
scrappy
he's just
bullshit
snarky guy.
Yeah,
sometimes I like Snarky though. Like I don't mind him at all, actually.
I like him on other podcasts as a guest, and I like sometimes when certain guests are on his podcast, and I get a lot out of them. But I can see him turning everybody off.
I want to say something. This might go too off the thing.
Sure.
So when I took that break from Howard, I started listening to other stuff, and I got back into ONA. And the first thing that I noticed was there's no chemistry now on the Howard Stern show at all amongst the people on it. And like even prior to that, there wasn't a great chemistry. When you listen to ONA, like there's such a rhythm, and they'd have guys come in. So one of the most interesting things, Bob Levy was a guy that would come on Howard, and it was just kind of a neutral thing for me. I didn't dislike him. I never found him to be that funny though. But I randomly was listening to an ONA when Bob Levy was on it, and I was like, Bob's actually pretty fucking funny. Like he was able to work into that chemistry, and they started getting that timing going, you know, like they started getting a rhythm going. I was like, wow, Bob Levy is a lot funnier than and I've heard him on Howard a million times. This is my first time hearing him on ONA. And I was like, this is such a stronger appearance for him. Like I would look more into him because I just felt like it was so hard to create that chemistry on Howard's show. And you don't realize how much it's lacking until for me, until I started branching out or getting back in. I've always been an ONA fan, but I was really taken aback by how much better that appearance for Bob was on ONA than anything I'd heard him on with Howard.
Because those guys knew how to hang. Wiggy doesn't. He can't relate.
Exactly.
That's the whole problem. He's not a stand-up. Not that ONA were stand-ups, but they had comedians all the time, and they weren't afraid to let them have the ball for as long as they wanted, as long as they came back into the picture to keep sort of like a framework of a show going. Like, you go ahead. You're going to make our show better by you killing. Wig doesn't want that to happen necessarily.
How many times now in these interviews do you hear, again, Howard, what's your process? What's your method? Because I think Howard doesn't have that innate talent that he has to have a method. Whereas like, okay, I sit down and I get these ideas and then we base a loose structure off. Then I get lines from this guy, like, because he doesn't have that talent. Someone with talent will tell you there's no process. It just happens. Like
you got it or you don't.
I'll bounce some ideas off the bassist or, but like, I think Howard actually has a process because he doesn't have that innate ability to be funny like ONA have.
Right. It's the difference between a craft. There's a difference between it's the levels between craftsman, like artisan, craftsman, and like student. Like so there's different levels of proficiency in whatever kind of vocation you're talking about, whether it's music, art, whether it's anything creative. And he thinks everything is like 10 easy steps to becoming a painter. Fucking DOS for dummies. fucking, comedian, like Sal having a stand-up tutor as the comedy coach. I love that clip. Sam, please.
But doesn't it make you realize then, because I agree with Bob, and I'm a huge O&A fan, and I also felt that way when I listened to Miserable Men, and then O&A. Bob gave me a completely different idea of himself, and that's why I asked about O&A during our interview with him, because I liked him on O&A. And I also think, too, when you listen to that and then you listen to Howard, you see, oh my God, there is some sort of structure behind the Howard interview that's happening because it sounds more scripted.
Yeah,
So
there's a formula.
You hear the formula behind the Howard thing. You hear, so Bob's going to talk about A, B, C, D, E, and I'm going to say A, B, C, D, E, and maybe we'll loosely touch on some certain points that happen if we touch these things. But there's definitely some sort of, note about what's going to happen. Where O&A, we're just like, we're going to have this guest, this guest, this guest. They might be here to promote something. They might not be, but they're going to hang for the whole show and they don't care. And it was more free form and conversationally interesting. And I loved that about, I loved that about it. Also, too, how Fillmore was saying, it is like when you go into a vocation or you go into a classroom and the professors that want you to be almost dogmatic about how you're approaching a subject versus heterodox thinking. And it's going to be a conversation where different points of view can thrive, and you don't have to come to any sort of pre-conclusion. There's no direction towards it. There's just, you're going to have the space to say whatever you're going to say, and it's going to go where it's going to go.
Right.
And
there's slack in the rope.
And you have the leader there that's going to know they have the wisdom and knowledge behind them to guide you, but they're not going to tell you how to think.
Yeah. Right.
They're not going to tell you what to think.
Right.
And that's how Howard is.
Here are the tools. You guys have fun with it, and we'll see what you've created. And he's not willing to let anything go that free form ever. And so for years, he used to criticize Jay Leno, all the Tonight Shows for being so formulaic. No one was more formulaic than Wiggy, especially during any given week, even during the early 2000s, where a guest would come in on this day, usually later in the week, or they'd call in for this amount, but they'd have this many plugs, and this is where we'd put the fucking phony phone calls and all the certain Sal bits or whatever that we found out, and KC bits especially, like the Golden Palace one, which I'm sure he claims is real, but I'm sure that was a fucking ad. If it ever got, that whole he lost all this thing, that was a huge Golden Palace fucking plug. There's just no way that was real.
It's all stories too. Like, here, tell this story.
Yeah.
How apparent is it now? Like we already know the interviews now before they happen.
Yeah.
Howard's going to bring up his dad. Howard's going to ask him if he's happy to show all these people that, they're fucked up or whatever. And
ask about his dick size.
He's going to ask him about his cock. Like, it's the same fucking interview. Whenever I listen to the breakdowns, I already know what he's going to ask him about. I already know the fucking interview before it happens. Like, it's just the same format he keeps coming back to. And I suspect that's why he believes other talented artists have some kind of formula, because he does.
Right.
When really there isn't.
How can they be organic? I'm not. Right.
You really could do a scientific case study of like that show against his show with the same people. So the control study would be like, put Bob Levy against Howard's show with O&A and, see where it hits these marks of interest and see where it hits points of, nuanced thought or funny or, do you know what I'm saying? Like it goes in always the same direction in Howard's show.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's like a talking point that they drive home that I think they sort of go into an interview with before it even starts. They have 3 or 4 narratives that they're going to drive home from the beginning rather than asking about it. They're like, we're going to drive home that he fucked his nanny or he actually hated the other guy in the band. He loves bringing that up. Like he thinks everybody just hates each other in these bands. Like,
yes,
I know
or they
that's
hate other
kind of a
bands.
theme. Yeah, or they hate other bands. Like,
It's always band fights.
You were bringing up, was it like he was asking him if Led Zeppelin hated the Beatles?
The Beatles,
and you're
right?
Like,
one band was in the 60s,
And
one band was in the 70s.
If Mick Jagger was going to steal his girl, he's like, no,
it's just
not at all.
Happen. Yeah,
just a simple no. No, that ends a conversation quicker or an interview quicker.
he goes, how do you know? He wouldn't do that.
That's why I love when Raven includes a few no answers in the so we usually just ask the I love when she adds them and the guy goes no.
Yeah,
he's got nowhere else. Like it's a fucking cul-de-sac with four flat tires.
Here's the thing that I wonder when he goes into these vengeance porn with like a casual interview, like, and he's like, do you just fucking, like, he's getting frothed up. He's like, when you just think about all those people seeing your success, do you just think, fuck them and fuck my dad? Like, does he think they're going to go, yeah, man, I think about that all the time. They're like, fuck them. Like, they're going to start kicking it back and forth. Like, almost every person he interviews gives a well-adjusted answer. Like, yeah, I don't really dwell on that. Like, I kind of move past that. And like, no one's ever like, yeah, you know what, man, you're right. Fuck them. Fuck those girls that didn't talk to me when I was 12. Like,
but also when he doesn't get the prescribed response that he's hoping for, you hear his voice gloss over it. Like, yeah.
Well, he does that,
like,
but I feel like he tries to push it
it
home. Where he's like, no, I think you're lying. I think you do. That's such a great way to get a guest to open up too, is to just jam like words in their mouth. Like, yeah, you do hate them, don't you? Like, no, I don't.
Jimmy Page, the Jimmy Page thing. Where he kept going like after Jimmy Page. Why don't you guys record together? They did. They do. They have no problem with each other.
Yeah.
I heard you were pissed off when you recorded this song. No, you hoped.
I think there's something there. Like, no.
Don't you think Jimmy was jealous when you were on the Grammy stage? What?
Yeah. Let's continue with this one, and we'll go into the Stamos discussion a little bit.
Jackson is going. Be able to do anything you want with the picture.
Jackson's going to the Met game because of me.
You.
Jackson went to school because of me.
Jackson was born because of you. Let's
Jackson's more my son than him.
Because if it weren't for Howard, I wouldn't marry. And not marry there's no Jackson.
Kinda, yeah. Yeah. And then you can unfriend me after everything. I mean,
oh my God.
Why would you even, Gary thought it was no big deal. He was telling people around the office. Some people had such a look of shock on their face from unfriending me.
How much value do you put in your social media? Because this is so pathetic.
Yeah.
I would think nothing of anyone except for my select few best friends unfriending me. Like, I could give a shit less. At some point I stopped even following my sister. Like, just, I don't know if it's muting or something, because she was like, when she first had a baby, it was just like so much breastfeeding nonsense. And I was like, I can't.
Right. Been there.
I love you. Yeah, I love you. And I love my niece, but I can't. You're just obnoxiously mother porning me. I can't deal with this. You know what I mean? But it's really like, she would never think you unfriended or you muted me.
Right.
Like, nobody cares.
Yeah. No.
In reality.
Right. Well, I've got a friend that I've done that to for ages, and I think a while back she said something like, "You don't comment on my things anymore." I think I flat out said, "I don't see your things anymore." I made it that way because I got fed up with. I'm sorry, I got really fed the fuck up. And she knows me as a person that I say my mind, and if it seems to bother, because also I just don't give a fuck if she did unfriend me, because we have no relationship. We stopped having one when I got with my wife. And that really pissed me off, actually, because I'm like, we're still friends. You don't have to just lay off because you're female and she's female and I'm with her. I mean, I've had friends of both sexes all my life.
Aren't we old enough, all of us, before social media to realize the difference between social media friendships, which I don't really care about or think about, and real friendships? He's so invested in this.
To him, a slight is a slight is a slight. And if it's on social media or in person, makes no difference. It has equal weight because it's against him and his little frail ego. Bob?
Anyone abandoning him on any microcosm is going to be a problem.
He sounds like he's ready to jump over the thing and grab Gary and choke him out.
But here's the thing, like even with this, that the old shows that I'm seeing, the new things are more demented. The new episodes, like he kind of starts going, comedy is exaggeration. So he starts to get really exaggerated. You wouldn't even have your son if it wasn't for me. And that was a kind of a funny line, although I think he might actually believe it.
Oh yeah.
But now I find on the shows when he goes into these rants, like it never winds up in this funny place anymore.
No,
or this kind of
stopped being
charming.
funny.
It's like you're just kind of angry and
Yeah.
bitter and mean.
It's like a toilet that doesn't flush.
Yeah,
It just sits there, and you're
have
like,
the
you're
resolve.
jimmying the lever, and it's just shit swirling around, breaking apart, but nothing's going down.
Sam, I suggest you don't go down this brown road because you may not be able to take the
Not a
discussion.
chance.
Oh, man. Oh yeah, there's a theme I can do without on the new Howard Stern shows. Just the relentless
Don't you go.
shit.
Don't you go there.
Good God, man! What in the last breakdown?
Is it
he had a line-
humiliation? Is it MPD? Like, is that for humiliation? Like, I was going to ask that. Is he doing that because MPD has something to do with humiliation? Because that's the only reason why I see he's doing this shit theme, which I despise.
Well, if devaluation is also part of, if you want to call it also humiliation, I mean, it's 6 and 1/2 dozen or the other, right?
Yeah, well, that's a bigger rabbit hole. Talking about the shit stuff.
Let's make that another saga.
Yeah, we can.
Raven and I can handle that with Bob.
But there
I
was
don't mind. I don't mind if it's like in a theme of psychology or like a hypothetical or you're referring to it in a way of like a mental thing. That doesn't bother me. It's like when it's so visceral when you're actually talking about the process of that.
Well,
I can't.
Raven's actually said a lot of stuff that is really insightful. Like I've taken notes on some of the stuff she's said, and I'll address them. Maybe I'll get on an episode, all of us with her. But one thing that she brought up one day, and it is something that I see, and I'm sure there's some kind of literature on there, but people with mom issues, I find kind of gravitate more towards ass stuff in the context of sex. I don't know why that is, but I've seen that with mom stuff. She brought that up on one of the breakdowns, and I thought that was really insightful because I have seen that. But for me, I mean, all that aside, like just the he said in that last breakdown, he's talking about Superman, and he's like, if Superman fucked, I don't know, Lois Lane or whatever, he's like, he would fuck the shit out of her asshole. And I just thought, what a fucking perverse way of describing that. I've heard my friends say, man, I'd fuck the shit out of her. I've heard that before. But when you specify I'll fuck the shit out of her asshole as if it would come from somewhere else, or that you're actually visualizing it. Like when someone tells me, man, I'd fuck the shit out of that girl, I don't actually visualize shit. You're just saying like, I really want to, so I'd really want to fuck her.
Yeah.
And just when whenever I hear anyone say that, I'm going to think of that line because it was so disturbing. And you're just, the way he's associating shit now.
It's
there's another level to that we can touch on maybe in the sex episode, but
put the
God,
fucking hard drive after that one. Jesus
Christ, man.
Yeah. Let's listen to a little bit more of this, and then we'll try to wrap it up.
Of shock on their face from unfriending me.
Somebody,
and I got to tell you something. Fuck you. And you know what? I am unfriending you as well. And you will no longer see what's on my
If
page.
you can figure, I
Of
know
course,
you,
I'm
you don't
boring.
post anything.
I don't post anything. That's what you should learn to
But
do.
the truth is, we won't miss each other on Facebook.
No, but what you are going to miss is that now that we're not friends anymore, don't come to my house.
Okay.
Gary!
All right, we're strictly business, okay?
All
Okay,
right.
pal.
All right.
Why would
All
we?
right.
When's the last time he was at your fucking house, asshole? In
Right.
like literally years. I don't know what kind of threat that is when you've got no bullets in your gun.
Unfriend me
Oh,
too,
believe me,
because he knows I'll
Yeah,
tell
Robin's
you.
worse than me.
Oh, I realized yesterday I have to unfriend Howard, Robin.
How about thanking?
Jason? Jason's got to be big unfriended.
How about thanking me on Facebook instead of blocking me? How about it should have said, you know what? By the way, a special thank you to Howard because I get to meet the Mets and they actually know who the fuck Baba Booey is.
How about on the air where more people can see us? A special thank you to you for everything.
No.
Anyway, I think it continues and it continues. It's a 13-minute clip and we're not going to go through it.
Nothing special enough.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like Gary was showing up and getting massages. I mean, dude was working, like the thing with narcissists and NPD, no one works as hard as them. No one's had it as hard as, no one's job is as difficult. No one works as much. You see that with all NPD
Bob,
people.
he could have been a full-time plank professional.
Yeah, well, he has a full-time job. I'm sure the plank guy gets free money sent to him every week. He couldn't have done two things at once. So
How many bodies are under this last contract he got? Honestly,
It's amazing.
you know what? Yeah, what do you guys think with that? I guess I
I know
view
who
it-
was fired.
There's a list of them: Jenny McCarthy, Jason Ellis, Covington and
Covino
Rich.
and Rich.
Covino and Rich. Sorry.
Covino and Rich.
And okay, who else? Is Norton still employed there?
Yeah.
There was. Hold on.
So Jenny McCarthy, Jason Ellis, Covino and Rich, Bennington.
But do you
No,
believe
he's
that
still
they
there.
were fired for Howard?
Yes.
To stay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You think so?
Because the budget. Because
Yep.
seriously, their stock is shit. The budget is. The budget needs. If they're gonna pay him what he wants to be paid and keep him on as like a magnet, and they also are putting on, like they said, they're putting on that what's his face?
Tom Morello.
Yes. So if they're having him on and trying, they should have been doing this long before. So now they have a fucking dead fish on a boat, but it's a dead fish that they think they need.
Here's how I view why they signed him. It's almost like a place like, I'll give it an example, like in Chicago, there used to be delis, or you'd walk around, they'd have a sign that says, "We serve Coca-Cola," or "We serve PBR." No one gave a shit that they served those, but it was that brand recognition that I almost feel like they're just paying, like no one cares that Howard is there because no one's listening to it, but it's almost like saying we have Coca-Cola. Like
It is
we
a brand.
have the biggest name.
That's right.
We have Howard Stern. So I just wonder how much they're really investing in him
Yeah.
and how much of it is just licensing his name almost to just put on there.
Just one thing, because while we were gone, we talked a little bit about it while we in between clips recording. Mike Rivera Jr. on our Facebook group is a bit of an apologist. He's a good poster, but he straddles the line. He seems to think, because C.A. Thompson posted a picture, a screen cap of her Sirius feed and what it would show: Tom Morello, some other DJ, some other channel of this, and no Howard, which doesn't figure at all prominently. Now that could be the algorithms and what she searches for on her Sirius, but I don't believe it. If Wig was so prominent and so important, he would be front and center, and he wasn't. And I don't believe people. So Mike's contention is that they signed him for X amount of money, X being like closer to 100 than not. He got less money each successive contract, to the point now where if they had to fire people to offset his salary, it's to make certain amount. But I don't believe he's getting more than 20 million a year anymore.
No,
I just don't believe it.
To me, it's the equivalent of saying we sell Coke products.
Right. He's the anchor
at a
mall,
restaurant.
Anchor store in a mall. I've said that so many times.
No one's
one
going
shops
there to
He's
get
like-
the Coke product, but
So it's like, okay, for example, when you have a Bills game, you have NFL merchandise that you sell for like $45 a t-shirt, $75 a sweatshirt
Sure,
at that certain NFL merchandise. Then you have the offset brands that are just as fucking good. They look the exact same, and all the parking lots and all the people that offshoot for the tailgate that sell the exact same shit that look just as fine for fucking $10 or $15 or $20. Where do you think you're going to go? You're going to go to these places. Those places aren't making goddamn anything anymore. They're not making shit. And so you're like barely keeping them employed.
Right. And so they had to fire all these people to sort of offset whatever cost his show would incur, or to keep certain people employed there. Now, I don't know what leverage he has with them to stay on, or it was just simply a matter of, look, we want you to stay, but only at this price. And if you're willing to take this, we'll keep you on. But it could have even been he got these people fired, but I don't think so. I think it was just budget, and that's it.
Yeah, I think it's just name. It's like what you just said, which is referred to as licensing or name licensing. I think they're basically just doing some name licensing. They're going to use the program to springboard new products that they have out there, like the Tom Morello show.
Totally.
And it's just, I don't think they're going to sink a whole lot into it.
And they also bought the licensing for his show. So they're now stuck with this albatross of, funny from the past that they can't use because we now live in Wokistan.
Yeah.
So
what do you
we
think
can't do this.
Do you think that they're trying to spin him now because so much of his back catalog is just
they can't use it?
Yeah, I mean,
they edit stuff out to the point. They edit stuff out to the point now where it makes no sense to even play it. Like even I said it before. There's the $800 bottle of wine saga with Robin, and for the video portion they edit Artie out of it. So you're not even because they put Artie in there. All of a sudden, everybody's going. New users are going. Well, where is this guy? Why don't I hear him? Where is this Artie guy? Like let's say a 20-year-old actually stumbles across the dial and finds it. Like you can't explain that away, so you have to edit it out. I get it, but why not just not play it? Don't even bother editing it. Why waste that effort, money, time, putting it out there as false product?
But they bought it, so that's the problem. So they bought something that they thought was going to be worth more, but they didn't realize the climate of what's happening here.
Right.
And it's worth so much less. It would be like having the Carson show, and we can look up clips on YouTube for free. But imagine having that entire catalog, and now you have to curb it to today's woke model. Forget it.
Exactly.
Forget it.
Yeah.
So let's finish this one up by going into what we can't play, guys, because we think it'll flag this episode and just waste, basically render the last 3 hours completely unusable by having to edit it or delete it from YouTube, which is the Stamos interview, which Raven and I, when we're ready to, or Sam and I will, or whoever was going to be able to do it with us, the Stamos interview will have to be probably a separate thing and maybe only for the app. But you heard it, Bob. You listened to some of the clips that Raven sent you about his narcissism and how it related to parenting. So what have you got to say about that? Because we can't play the clips, but basically you're saying he went to therapy to be a better father. We've heard those in the past, but he said it in this one really strangely.
So I guess I didn't realize John Stamos. I figured Howard just did his usual song and dance and brought up how he's a shit father. But I guess apparently John Stamos is having a kid.
Has a kid.
Howard has a kid. Howard brings up how how he needed to go to therapy to understand how to not make his kids a member of the audience. I guess he had this innate feeling to make his kids a part of the audience. Like he's like he wanted admiration from his children as fans. And what was very telling to me in the clip was he says, I learned that I had to put my narcissism aside and be a parent. And I thought the fact that he used that term was pretty strange. It's not a term I hear frequently when people talk about changing their habits with their kids. But it really just sort of showed that he has no ability or any sort of innate empathy towards even his own children during that time.
You said to me when I said, "Did you hear this?" And you said he had to have been told this. He had to have been told this. This is not something he understood himself about himself. That somebody has had to have instructed him. He's a full-blown narcissist, and he has to actually work at not making his kids audience members of his life.
And that's what he said. He said, I had to put my narcissism aside, and I wanted to turn my children into admirers like my audience, which is a fucking weird thing to say. And I think he was trying to get John Stamos in on it. He wasn't on board with that. And then he says, but you know how it is, like with famous people, when you're famous, you get into these cycles, and it didn't seem to be reciprocated. So.
Right. He did. Go ahead, Sam. But after, to remind me about the Tom Brady interview. Go ahead.
I don't know if you heard the clip before that. It was John Stamos put a letter framed behind him in his office, and he read it to Howard. And it basically was John Stamos was on an acting job in Europe, and he wrote to John about how proud he was because he treated everybody on set so amazingly, and just how he raised him. And he wanted to make sure that his son kept those values of just basic kindness within him.
This was John's father that wrote him a letter?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So he said how proud he was of him, that even though he was so happy that, John was so excited to pay for his parents to go on this amazing trip while he was filming this thing. His father wrote him a letter about how proud he was of how he treated everyone on set. And he framed the letter. And he read it to Howard and started crying. Yeah. And Howard pivoted away from that so fast.
Because it was emotion.
And he had nothing emotional to say about it.
Nothing.
And then that's when they started talking about the parenting. And that's when he said the narcissism thing. And it was so interesting because I was thinking to myself, so this is a guy that probably struggled with narcissism himself in some sort of way, or fame as a drug, or everything, all the above. But, trying to have a conversation about going through these motions as weirdly it is to be famous throughout all these periods of time, and becoming a parent, and having a relationship, and getting married, and having failed relationships, or alcoholism, or substance abuse, or whatever. He's trying to relate to him on so many different levels, and he just flatlines on all of them, except for the parenting thing, where he says that, where it seems like somebody told him that.
Yes. Yeah. It's like Lego instructions.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like A piece goes connected to C piece, and like that's how he gets through life. He doesn't get through life. He barely gets through life, and that his kids, they weren't even lucky enough to be the audience because he pisses on his audience. They were just baggage. They're just you've seen those parents that treat their kids like fucking luggage, and they sometimes act like it. The kids, you got to drag them across an airport, but. You see people that go, this person should never have been a father. There's nothing in Allison that was smart enough then, because she didn't know what she knew eventually, that he should never have fathered children. He knows that now, but I think he may have always known that. He just, I do feel a bit of sadness for his kids, because they didn't ask for it. They just did not ask to be treated like, they didn't exist.
It's better that they were ignored.
It went better for them as adults now that he had no real influence, but he did have an influence by not being there. That's the problem.
What's worse?
Oh, it would have been worse with him as an actual parent. Absolutely.
Because I think they would have ended up
if he was hands on. Oh yes, yeah.
Well, I guess and they're lucky they had Allison there to mediate that, because a lot of people don't know what's going on when you have that element there, especially kids. They don't. their parents are their heroes. And when you have a personality as insidious as Howard's and no one there to protect them from that gets to be really destructive.
Was it Emily that posted on her Instagram or something ages ago, Sam? You might recall better, about her nanny at the time and having like she has a connection with her still and she misses her and she loved her. Like it was a black lady. It was just like the help.
I think it was a Latina person actually, or maybe
awesome.
Black. I'm not sure. So
I don't recall, but someone of color or some ethnicity.
Yes, and she was very, connected to her apparently.
Mm-hmm. But you've never seen anything like that with her, like the daughters and him.
No, ever.
Yeah. And the afterthought, some people have asked us to go through the Colbert. I think it was you. Was it you, Bob, that said we should go through the Colbert interview?
I don't know if I said we should go through it. I was watching it. Someone tagged me in it. There's a segment in there that I think we should touch on.
Okay, for sure.
But most of it was just
bullshit.
Howard, just show placing and getting in his showman persona.
It might be Patrick J. He's asked, like, why don't we go through the Bill Maher interview, the last one that he did for the book promotion? I don't know that it's worth it. Sam, you might have to make a call on that one.
I haven't heard that.
It's a train wreck. That's about all. It's not really worth it, in my opinion. And the Letterman one, the Netflix one, I'm not sure I want to go through that either. But
I think the Bill Maher and the Stephen Colbert are on the same level of the depravity of nothingness, that he has nothing to give, and he is so seeking just this attention from both of these people that it's embarrassing. And it's also they're trying to garner something from him, and they're also trying to frame him in a way that he wants to be framed, but they also, especially Bill Maher, knows he's not evolved.
No.
And it's obvious. So it's like, I'm trying to do the best I can to make you seem the way you want to be seen, but you're giving me nothing, and you're also embarrassing yourself at the same time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And it's the Comedians in Cars with Coffee one, the Jerry Seinfeld one. They're all like interchangeable, even though they're all different years. Well, they're 7 years apart. But there's almost no difference in how he is on camera. Like it's just completely intractable in the way he tries to crowbar shit in and make it about himself, but be unfunny, under the guise of thinking he's funny. And that's probably the biggest takeaway. You just kind of cringe and you go, Jesus, if this guy doesn't have writers, or whether he has writers anymore, this is shit.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if we want to go through it, but in the future we'll figure that out. Any closing thoughts before we wrap this one up, Sam?
I know we go heavier on these MPD ones, so sorry they're not lathered with laughter.
Frivolous.
But it really is important though, because it goes to the exact psyche of who he is. But during the John Stamos one, I did really find it, because they were friends at some point, and they were both pointing to that, like saying what happened. Like, why aren't we friends anymore? And he said, I just thought it's better to just leave it alone, and nobody wants to be bothered.
Meaning Wiggy said this.
Yeah. And he just said, I just thought you don't want to be bothered. I don't know if I believe that, or what is that? And he does that with a lot of people because he doesn't maintain friendships. That's another thing I noticed. They have this thing, Beth and Howard. They don't maintain friendships, and they don't have friendships from the past.
No, what happened to her and Katie Lee?
I don't know.
People within PD can't sustain any relationship. They cannot hold them up. I mean, Howard has subsidized his marriage with vast amounts of money and celebrity connection, but if that was there, Beth wouldn't. If that wasn't there, Beth wouldn't be there. They can't sustain any kind of friendship or any kind of relationship.
And then he also said, John said, so what's your relationship like with your daughters now? And he said, I think I have a very good relationship with them. I Zoom with them all the time. I talk with them all the time.
Yeah.
To me, if you just had a child, which you're not admitting to, that you're a grandfather,
Yeah.
if you have any sort of real connection with them, there would be some sort of anecdote, there would be some sort of something. And I don't think it's because of privacy or boundary. I just don't think it exists. And this whole like I Zoom with them all the time, I don't buy it.
No. If he's barely a parent, how is he even going to be close to being a grandparent? There's just no way.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that you're going to see a lot more of what he was talking about the last time. He's already looked into cutting people out of his will. He will use that will as an absolute weapon moving forward from now on. Whatever kid he thinks is going to take care of him, preserve his name, whatever, he's going to favor them. He's going to promise them more money. He's going to use it as a tool to abandon people. He's going to use it as a tool to abuse people. He's going to hang it over people's heads. You're really going to see that more. I'm not sure how much he's going to talk about it, but he will talk about it moving forward with some frequency, I believe.
Death and wills. Yeah, Sam?
Even if he does Zoom with them, do you think it's more of like they are doing this to preserve their stake in whatever he provides versus him trying to be a good parent?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm with Bob.
Yes.
I'm sure, Sam, you're on board as well.
Yeah. Okay.
They're all thinking, I mean, they're all probably dependent upon his money in one way or another. I don't know. I actually don't know much about his kids.
I mean, he doesn't do anything.
Right.
No. And I'm sure he's subsidized that with money. I'm sure they're used to getting that money. And they're probably going through the motions. Everything's transactional with them. So he'll just say, yeah, I had a Zoom meeting. Yep, cross it off the list for the week, and he'll probably start to try to favor some of the kids more than other ones. Promise them more money than the other ones. And he's going to
make a killing.
Yes.
Here's what they want to do. They're going to want to lock down a caretaker. Now, if he starts to have doubts about Beth, he's going to try to lock down one of his kids.
Oh my
God. To have them take care of him.
When Carrie and I did our episode on the wills, his will and what's going to happen, I really wish I had the clips I had now because that was well before this happened. And we both figure, well, at least I postulated that Emily gets the least because she actually disparaged him in public and made that fucking record and everything else, and is a rabbi. It's great. And then Deborah gets the second least because she made him a grandfather. She had the fucking chutzpah to make him a fucking grandfather. And then Ashley gets the most because she's the one that had the something of a relationship with Beth, at least partially, for a while. And she's also the baby. Baby usually makes off with the most, but it's not always a hard and fast rule. But I don't know what you guys feel about that. But I think you're right, Sam. Ashley is going to make off with the most.
I agree.
Yeah.
The one that publicly disavowed him is definitely getting the least.
Oh yeah, if she gets
make sure that he will make sure that she knows that too.
Publicly.
That slight fucked her for life. I'm proud of her for doing that, even though she semi took it back. According to him.
Such a great article. And then the Larry King thing when he had to go on Larry King and talk about her and that play, the Kabbalah play, that was fantastic. We might have to do that one day, Sam. At any rate, guys, thank you so much for paying attention to this particular episode and as deep focus as you have. Listen to us, guys, on Podbean, Spotify, Player FM, TuneIn, all the apps, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts. We love you. No plugs that I can think of, but just go Habs go. And I feel bad for Chicago. How's Chicago shaping up this year?
Oh, not good. Not well. Buffalo's got the worst team in the league, though, outside of Ottawa.
Oh, I thought you meant crime.
Oh.
Well.
I was going to say, you win. Lori Lightfoot's doing a fucking great job.
Yeah, I'm out of the city now, so I'll be able to do more shows, so...
Yeah, and guys, tomorrow I'm gonna be recording a special Marbles episode with Kerry. He's back now that he's got his practice mothballed, and he's working for the state, I believe now, if I'm not mistaken. But we love you, so take care, stay safe, and see you on the next one.
Go Bills.
Well, it sounds fascinating.
Hey, Howard, this makes sense. I just read in page 6, Diana DeGarmo is writing a book. It's called Go Away, Little Monster.
Well, Eric, I wish you luck with this book. I do.
And take your little dog with you.
And I'm very excited to have a reading and hear what you have to say, okay?
Yeah, I can't wait.
Oh, man.
All right.
Thank you.
Hey, Artie, how many brain cells have you actually killed with coke and heroin?